So, spoiler alert, Khaleesi flies in on our dragon and kills all the Skywalkers. Okay, so we have just finished training, and we are joined with Tristan, Tristan, tell us your story.
My story.
I feel like you trained before, and then you took some time off, and now you're training regularly again.
Yes,
you're like the oldest, newest member, right?
Yeah.
Like you had a gi that
I'm one of the people that the black belts tell stories about that started as a white belt, went for about 6 months, and then quit for about 12 years, and then came back.
And you're not exaggerating when you say quit for 12 years.
Yeah, I literally quit for 12 years. And not because I didn't want to train. It was just at the time I was broke and it was very expensive. And then, got in a career and just decided to get really out of shape. And then finally made it back and was lucky enough to find Paul and this gym again and got to kind of pick up where I left off 12 years ago.
So what was your first experience with ATT Orlando? Like, where were you? At what point did you join? Like, were you in college? Or because, that was a while ago. You were probably in college, right?
I think I was in college at the time. I was transitioning from, dropping out of college and going into a career, which is what happened. So it's been, right about then I would have been working, I think I was working as a cook or something at the time. So, not a lot of money, trying to pay for school. And then after I got out, then I started my career where I'm at now. And for some reason, I just never made it back. And then I felt like I was too heavy at one point to come back to jiu-jitsu. I didn't want to be the super fat guy in the gym. So then I kept saying, well, I'm going to lose some weight and then I'll go back. And you know how that goes. So that was another however many years that took.
What got you into doing? So did you join to do jiu-jitsu, MMA, Muay Thai? What was your
I
original
initially
goal?
started. I actually tried Taekwondo for about 3 months.
Yes.
And then I
Did you say that just to score brownie points with Chris here?
Oh no, and I'll tell you why, because it was absolutely horrible. I'm not gonna say the name of the gym, but
no, please do.
It was that Victory Martial Arts over there. Yeah. And
wait, did you join because of Danny Abadi?
No, I wanted a martial art, and Taekwondo looks really cool from the outside. You're doing crazy kicks and stuff.
It's
and,
athletic, man. Like it's just not. A martial art.
It looks very spectacular and useful from the outside, but by like the 10th class or something, where you're yelling at the air and breaking fake boards, I was like, I don't think this is my thing. So I transitioned from there into their Krav Maga class, which I actually did for about a year, and that was actually a lot better.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did Krav Maga for about a year.
How many groin kicks did you drill in that amount of time?
Say what?
How many groin kicks did you drill?
we drilled a few groin kicks. Yeah.
Awesome.
That was actually the first time. The worst memory of that is that was the first time I actually took a full power leg kick with no pads or anything, and that just straight dropped me, and that's like the most vivid memory I have of Krav Maga. But they changed instructors, so then I got out of that, and that's when I went over to ATT for the first time, because I wanted to continue grappling, and I think they were just the closest school to where I lived at the time.
So which Publix Plaza was this Krav Maga school?
That was, where's that, Waterford Lakes, I think?
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
Is it the one down there?
It was.
next
I think
to
it's where like
Slapfish?
Brass Tap is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's still there, actually.
I think they moved it. It's in the same plaza, but in a different
Okay.
place. Yeah.
Cool. Well, shout out to them. It got you started in the martial arts. It just wasn't for you.
Yeah, I had good training there for about a year, and they had good people and a good training partner. Another one of these big, huge athletic guys, and then it's just kind of a mix of like normal people like me, just working schmoes, trying to get work in.
Did you at what point did you how did you transition into the let go of my purse and then like elbow them in the face? Like, was that a part of the curriculum?
I don't remember stuff that's like non-practical technique. I tend to forget very quickly. So all like the gun, knife defense stuff, I don't remember any of that.
They actually legit did this stuff?
Yeah, they did all that
TV?
stuff. Yeah, the whole grab whatever you have and stab them in the eye. They talk about all that stuff. Like it's a very, very violence-forward
like
martial art.
I'm kind of familiar.
Dangity dangity?
No, but yeah, it's like, oh, looky what I have here.
Yeah.
I don't believe in an eye for an eye. I believe in two eyes
But
for
you
an eye.
said you wanted to continue grappling, so they
Yeah,
actually
grappling was
had
the part
grappling.
of that training that I enjoyed the most, because they did a little bit of like no-gi style, on the mat grappling and a little bit of submissions and stuff.
Nice. Do you remember any of it that you used to this day?
I don't even remember my first 6 months of jiu-jitsu I did back then. I had to restart from zero when I came back.
So you trained at ATT Orlando, the original, right? Dean University?
Yep, that was back when they made you buy a gi and you had to wear their patches and have those put on, and it was, yeah.
And you still have that gameness gi
Paul
to
was a
this
brown
day?
belt, I think, at the time.
Yeah. He was definitely a silver. Did you And you joined there to do just jiu-jitsu or what?
I started there doing no-gi, and then I was doing a little bit of like, they did more like cardio kickboxing classes and stuff, because back then I was fat too and trying to get in shape. So I think I was about 240 back then. So I was doing some of those classes, and then I saw him doing the gi, and that's when I bought the gi and started doing that.
Really? So you actually
too.
went from kickboxing to doing jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, well, I came and started doing no-gi first.
Oh, that's right.
And then I was doing kickboxing at the same time, and then threw in some jiu-jitsu.
Nice. And then how long did you train before you decided to take that time off?
I think I was there for about 6 months.
It's pretty. Man, you almost reached the. You almost reached the point where
almost.
where
Although
people
I wasn't doing as much gi then. That was like my third choice option. So I was doing more no gi grappling, and then kickboxing, and then occasionally I do a jiu-jitsu class.
Which do you like the most now?
Now I'm all about the gi.
Are you?
Oh yeah, that's my whole thing.
Why?
Now.
Why?
Mostly because I find no-gi incredibly exhausting, and I do my worst jiu-jitsu when I'm very tired.
To be over the age of 30.
Yeah.
What do you? So you don't even do any kickboxing anymore, right?
I started doing Muay Thai after I got my blue belt. I got back
Okay.
to it a little bit, so I've done a few classes, and we'll be getting back to it a little more frequently in the
Are you
new
really?
year. Yeah.
Okay. When's your first MMA fight then?
Never.
Why not?
Let me repeat that. Never. Turns out I really hate getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
I've learned that about myself.
I want to start doing that in jiu-jitsu when we roll. I want to start like
We should do
open
that.
open palm
Jiu-jitsu
strike.
with hits, man. Like that's a
Combat
big-
jiu-jitsu, baby.
Yeah, dude. That's why we do it, right? So,
Yeah, I thought Paul was going to start doing some of that during our like week of self-defense jiu-jitsu that he occasionally does.
Do you? So is your like what is your ultimate training goal? Is it purely fitness? Is it
At this point,
self-defense
it's
related?
purely fitness. Jiu-jitsu is the one thing I've been able to sort of consistently do. When I do it, it makes me come here, and the training partners make me go harder than I normally would. So for me, it's just the perfect way to stay in shape. I get really bored running. I can't commit to lifting weights for more than 3 months at a time. But this is the thing so far that's kind of kept me coming back, and it's what I enjoy doing the most.
So did you make a conscious effort to seek out Paul again, or was it happenstance that you just happened to be in the area and then like?
Well, when I started looking, I mean, there's quite a few jiu-jitsu schools around here, but this one, again, happened to actually be the closest one to my house, and it actually just happened that Paul was still teaching here.
Nice.
So it just kind of really worked out well for me in that regard.
When did you find out that Paul was the head instructor here?
I think I initially just looked up, BJJ in Orlando and started looking
Okay.
through the gyms
really?
and where
Okay,
they were.
alright.
Yeah.
So-
Because
It
when I
just
was
happened
going
to be
before, there was there's a Gracie gym around here. There was a couple more, and then there was the other ATT school, which I almost went to because it's closer to my job because it's right there behind Waterford.
Did you try a class there?
No, I didn't. I came here. I saw Paul was the coach, and I just stayed here.
Nice. What do you love most about Paul?
Oh, let me tell you about Paul.
What do you love most?
The
About
beer is starting to hit.
I haven't eaten since
The face is starting to get red.
7:15 yesterday, ladies.
I thought you had breakfast with your son.
No. I said I prepared breakfast.
Oh.
Okay. I had to do breakfast. I didn't eat breakfast.
I kind of figure Chris just starts every jiu-jitsu class with like a 0.5 alcohol level, and then it just goes
and work my
after
way
that.
up. I've been told many times. Actually, my original boss before I took his position when he moved away, he's like I'm very like good at turning on like work Chris and then like everybody else Chris, right? Like, and so the first time I'm very like straight edge, just professional at work, and then like the owner of our company actually came to town and took us a lot to dinner, and had a couple beers in me, and my boss Daniel at the time was like, I love alcohol Chris so much better than regular like boring Chris. Like you are so much cooler with a couple beers in you. I mean, it's just because at work you got to be a certain way, and at the gym you can be a certain way too. So
And who doesn't love a guy that's more animated and smiley?
exactly. I mean, so question, Tristan, who smiles more, me or Mike Sahibi?
Oh, I don't know. You guys will break the ribbon together. Smiling the whole time.
He's definitely like the. Have you ever seen that like most photogenic marathon runner guy where he's just like, eh. Like that's definitely Mike Sahibi. So Tristan, what you recently did some travels, didn't you?
Yes, I just did the BJJ Globetrotters trip in St-Barth that I learned about from Noah and his Icelandic adventure.
Yeah, so I'm kind of intrigued because I feel like getting a little, like that's why I want you to kind of go a little into more of like what your experience is like. But I feel like the camps had different identities. I think the location, I mean, if you're in Iceland, I don't know like how conducive that is to going to the beach.
Yeah, I think you guys probably ended up doing a lot more training than we actually did.
But yeah, so like what I know that I had kind of like mentioned it and you were like, oh, let me take a look at that. But from there, kind of walk us through what motivated your decision to go and then what it was like when you got there.
All right. Well, I heard about it from you, obviously, and I had just started, last year or the year before, kind of traveling abroad. I finally got to a place where I could afford to do that kind of stuff. So we had done a trip to Europe, and I was starting to look for other places I could go. But anytime I travel anywhere, like I never want to get caught doing just the tourist stuff, walking around, taking bus tours or whatever. So I wanted to have a reason to go. And when you came back and talked about going to Iceland and getting to train jiu-jitsu, and it looked really cool from going on the website. And then I saw they had this camp at this fantastical island. It looked like something to try. So that's what I did. Me and one other guy from the gym, we went up there, and
you can name him. It's okay. It's cool.
David Chico.
Chico.
Yeah. And it ended up being really cool, and actually almost exactly like the picture. The first day we went to that cliffside.
Was it really?
Yeah. If you look, their picture for this camp is on a cliff. They put out a mat and outside, and it's overlooking the ocean. And they were rolling, doing jiu-jitsu and drinking beer, and that's exactly what we did on the first day.
I can tell you that
awesome.
I was like on their Instagram after class, and we were playing like Spot Chico and Tristan, and we're like, oh, there's Tristan, and yeah, we saw you up on that hilltop, kind of just walking around with some people rolling. But yeah, it looked like the weather's phenomenal.
It was the whole trip was really nice. We spent probably a lot more time at the beach than the gym, especially considering it was it's in the Caribbean and there's no air conditioning in that gym, so you could only really afford to do so much training before you keel over. But we had good teachers. We had good training roles. I tried to train at least twice a day, but you get tired fast in the humidity there.
Was it an actual gym or was it just like a warehouse?
No, it was their actual local BJJ gym. Nice. I guess they also do Taekwondo and stuff there. But
did you bust out some of the Taekwondo?
No. I think we drove them all out. The only people I saw training there were BJJ people.
So who did you like? What was the furthest reaches of people you met there?
There was a lot of people from Iceland, including one of my roommates and one of the black belt instructors there. There was a lot of people from Canada.
Was it Bjorn?
Yes, it was.
Bjorn, yeah.
I think it was Bjorn, but then the last names that kind of fade into syllables. And I forgot. But yeah, a lot of really cool people from sort of all over. Let's see, we had people from a lot of Iceland, a lot of Canada, a couple Estonia.
Did you take the class with Pritt?
I did, yes. I
was
looking forward to that.
Yeah.
He is exactly like he is on YouTube. Just throwing out the occasional awkward joke, and he's good. He's a good teacher.
Did he say if you can't avoid the cross face, your jiu-jitsu sucks?
He didn't say that one, but he did give a few of the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
A little bit of that. Yeah.
when did he become an Italian?
He does that occasionally. It's like when you're doing jiu-jitsu and you're just muscling around, you do jiu-jitsu with technique. That's his little spiel.
What was your biggest takeaway from all the learning you did?
I suck at surfing, I think, was my biggest revelation while I was over there.
I mean,
I didn't really
where
learn.
are you in surfing? Like one stripe white belt? What?
I think I'm a below. I don't think they've given me a white belt yet. I think you have to be able to stand on the board
like
once before they give you a white belt.
So did it make you connect with the jiu-jitsu spirit though? Because I know that's a big thing, right? You're not a true jiu-jitsu artist unless you surf also, right? Isn't it a part of
I really hope that's not a rule, because then I got no hope at a
I
purple
think you
belt.
black belt back if that's the case. Did you do? So is this your first time surfing? I've never surfed.
No, that was definitely my first time surfing. And it was like surfing on an obstacle course, because the beach we were at, the only place with waves due to the time of year or the weather, was over a reef break. So essentially, if you fall off the board, you're essentially dead. You're on sea urchins and coral, and one guy got his hand messed up from putting his hand down on a sea urchin.
The break, you can't break fall, man.
Yeah, there's no break fall.
Okay, yeah.
So we had
he's break falling wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a
post.
50-foot strip you could actually surf on, and then everywhere else was danger zone.
Really?
So, yeah, and having never done it before, I never really appreciated just how exhausting it is to continuously
really?
Paddle around. Yeah,
because
you're paddling out, you're half missing the wave, and then you got to start over. You got to swim across the current to go back. It's very exhausting. So I know why those guys are in great shape now.
So what was it like rolling with strangers?
Yeah, what's your what did you? Was it a good calibration for you?
That was actually the coolest part, because you come here and, everybody kind of knows the rules. You slap hands. Everybody's kind of cool. It's like everyone speaks the same language, jiu-jitsu. And you kind of expect that even going to gyms in Orlando or Florida or even the U.S., but to show up and have people from all over with all kind of accents and all kind of experience to kind of show up to the same place and still immediately you fall into the same rhythms. You slap hands, so it's the same language.
Same culture?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem going with anybody. Just people I'd never met before from across the world. Come right up to them, slap hands. We had great rolls. I got a lot of great pictures of just me smiling with sweaty people after rolls. A lot of really good people. I was surprised at the caliber of blue belt that showed up. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's just the more hardcore guys that do these camps or what, but yeah, I had a lot of really solid rolls with other blue belts, and it was all kind of skill levels, white belts, blue belts. A lot
Did
of
you
belts.
Defend the gym's honor?
Did
you defend the gym's honor?
I think between Chico and I, we held down the honor of Florida and the American top team.
Like those fucking Floridians, they don't know shit.
The black belts and brown belts may not be impressed with us. I'll say that up front, but I think I held my own against everyone else.
Did you submit anybody? Name them. Break the unbroken rule.
I think I got one rear naked choke on the guy who was a blue belt.
Name.
I don't know his name.
You know who you are.
I think
you're listening.
You know who you are.
Did you learn? So what did you learn? Like in terms of like what did you?
Did you like pick up any tips or takeaways from the jiu-jitsu side? Or do you not want to reveal them yet?
A lot of the techniques we actually did was stuff I already knew. There wasn't a lot of new stuff. I did the one sickle sweep that I kind of hit on you today. That was actually the first thing from that camp that I hit on somebody.
Nice. Did Bjorn
and then I
teach that
took a lot
class?
of fun classes. Say again?
Did Bjorn teach that class?
Yes, he did actually. Yes, that was exactly the class that he taught.
He kind of taught that. Yeah, he does a
cross sleeve grip and then hook the leg and go over. Yeah, so big shout out to Bjorn, man. You're doing it, man.
That was what he was teaching in Iceland, or he mentioned teaching that in Iceland as a variation of basically a shin-on-shin open guard kind of that he plays.
Okay.
Yep, so that was good. And then I took a lot of fun classes of stuff that I probably will never get to use. We did a wrist lock class where you're like looping your belt around the wrist. Unfortunately, I got a fat waist and a short belt, so that one's hard to do, but I'm determined to get it on someone eventually.
A wrist lock?
Yeah, wrist lock.
Off of what? So I can be looking.
That's from closed guard and also from standing.
Ooh.
So he did a few different variations, and those are the two that I kind of still halfway remember.
Did you take a class with Aaron Ross?
I don't think so.
I don't know if he was there. I'm wondering.
No, I don't think so.
Did you get time to sit down and talk to Christian at all? The guy, the head organizer.
I didn't get to talk to Christian too much because he apparently also lives on the island, so he's doing a lot more running around.
What? So this dude like does jiu-jitsu and just like.
Oh no, he has a book. I haven't read it, but he's basically a model of a guy. He's like a Danish dude. I don't know if he got his black belt before or after he started the Globetrotter thing. I want to say after, but basically he was kind of disenchanted with the clickiness of a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms, and he wanted to be kind of a lifestyle. So he went on a long trip. He discovered himself on this walkabout, I guess. And he figured out that, hey, I can live in St-Barth and teach and then go back to Denmark sometimes. But basically what he does is he runs these camps year-round, and in his downtime, he's in St-Barth living and teaching at this gym.
So this is the BJJ Globetrotters guy?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome.
So he's figured it out.
And he also taught one class there, which was actually a very informative sort of conceptual class about keeping top position, which I actually found helpful. He had kind of a real different approach. Reveal his secrets. He's got a numbering system for keeping yourself on top as far as keeping track of the limbs that you have isolated.
Oh.
Like you keep the head moved to one side, you keep the near shoulder, you keep the near leg, you keep the far shoulder, the far leg, and then the number of those that you have sort of indicates how much control you have in the position. So I'm sure I'm explaining it poorly.
Chris is
but
like, yes, I like it.
It was a very novel approach to that position.
I like this.
Are you?
And he did kill me in our one grappling match. He absolutely destroyed me.
Yeah, did he like float like the Andre Galval? It's spinning on his knees on top of your back and stuff.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that's just real frustrating because you never know. He's never in a standard position, and he feels like he's just floating on top of you, just sort of literally running circles around you as they're panting and
How
trying.
many minutes in before you punched him?
He's too relaxed. You don't feel mad at the guy. He's just like
he wearing?
Just happens to be hovering around you.
Was he wearing his pink gi and his blue headgear?
Yes, there was definitely a pink gi and there was definitely headgear.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did you So did you find yourself like, because you went with a gym member, right? Like the easiest thing to do is like hang out with them all the time, right? Like how much did you hang out with Chico there? How much did you go out and like meet other people and like go surfing with other people and stuff? Like how much?
And did you guys party a lot at night? Because I know there's like a group that will go out every night.
I was not in the party group. I was having a real hard time with the humidity and training. Like I was exhausted Florida, a lot of the time from what?
You're from Florida.
I know, and you'd think that would be better, but the thing here is we have air conditioning everywhere. I only have to experience humidity between this building and my car and my house. So over there, it's like we had AC only where we slept, and everywhere else was nothing. That. Yeah. So you're just, and after training in the morning, you're just exhausted and doing a lot of walking around. What
was the like laundry situation there?
So they had a service come in. So every night you would just come and throw your laundry in a bag. They had a service come in, and then they bring it back the next day.
Did anyone lose their gi?
Oh, yeah. That was like a constant thing of like, oh, someone took my A2 competition gi. I think you mixed it up with this one. But I think by the end, it had mostly gotten sorted out.
Was like the laundry staff just walking around in A2 competition gis? Like, what was happening?
Well, it's a lot of people, and they all were, like a lot of them were wearing the same like BJJ gi that you get there.
So what happens? You can
so there's
order
like 20 of those white gis. So
I need to order that fucking America one.
That's why you go with the Datsusara people, because it's
really? You're
it's more unique.
America fuck your gi?
Is that gone?
I think it might be done because I think it was beginning of December. Well, it wasn't that, but just go to BJJGlobetrotter.com and look at the American
Tristan, are you familiar with the America fuck yeah gi?
I am not familiar.
I mean,
with
it's not. I don't think that's what it's called, but it's made out of denim. It's a denim gi.
Oh no!
Yeah.
No, thank you.
And you can get a sleeveless version.
No,
so
I'll
it's
just
like the
walk outside in jeans and a jean
jacket.
It looks
good though. I mean, it looks legit.
That way.
Dude, I channel my fucking inner Bruce Springsteen with this gi. So like,
the fact that you even have an inner Bruce Springsteen is just hilarious to me.
I often forget that I'm not white. Let's just clarify.
That wasn't even an Asian joke. That was just this day and age, like whose core reference.
As Preet would say, that's not a joke. That's not a joke. As Preet would say, that's not a joke. I'm Estonian.
But so like, I have been known to have quite a few gis at the gym. So like
yeah, that's the award you win every year, the paper plate most gis.
That actually they need to create one because I would definitely win that every year. But I think this might be the new one because like I'm proud of like quite a few of my gis being very unique and stuff, and this might be the one that's gonna get the most.
I got enough problems with my grip. I'm not going with a denim gi. That's just bad news for my poor little fingers.
Have you felt my Tristan? What do you look for in a gi? Because you still wear that fucking gameness that's like 850 weave.
I do. That's the one I wear when I want to frustrate grips, because that's the one no one can grab, mostly because I shrank it to the point the sleeves are up to my elbows. But it's also
that's the Jovan special, man.
Yeah, it is the Jovan special.
Yeah, Jovan actually just makes more muscle inside the gi.
He just flexes and then the whole thing slides up, and you're like, no, it's no longer available. You missed out, bro.
That is accurate. That's like Mark with his skin-tight ripstop gi pants.
And he's like, this is legal. This is legal. Buy one. I could sell you one. But
you know why he does that? Because every time he sells like 5 or 10, he gets a free one.
Does he?
Yeah. It's like a punch card system.
Is this confirmed? Oh, look at that gi.
That's not a gi. That's a rash guard. But you missed that.
I don't even do no gi, and I'll do that.
Well, oh, God, no. He's looking at an obnoxious.
Sorry,
he's shopping. So I saw a study.
Quit jumping down that rabbit hole.
I saw a study that
never.
I think it was like up to like 80% of Americans look at a second screen when watching TV.
I thought it was closer to like 100%.
I know, right? And they're like looking shit up, like, but they're on their phones while they're watching shit on TV.
So like, have you seen this guy? I don't know what his name is, but he's like an entrepreneur, and he's like this. Because like the whole thing now is like people tend to embrace like the old, and like the old is always better, right? And he's like, fuck that, man. Like I don't even like let my I want my kids to get screen time. I don't limit that, right? Because that's the future. People sort of like latch onto the past. What, Tristan, do you feel is like where do you see jiu-jitsu going as a BJJ traveler at this point? Like what do you want to focus on? What do you want to learn? What do you want to do?
Oh, as far as BJJ is going, I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question.
Yeah, absolutely you are, man.
I say that all the time, and he's like, you can have your opinion.
Everybody's got their opinion. Everybody's got like what you want. What's intriguing to you about BJJ?
I mean, for me, BJJ is just the best sort of combat sport for someone that doesn't like getting punched in the face. So
Agreed 100%.
I see it growing in that perspective. I also see I know here in Orlando they just started a BJJ club at UCF over there.
No, it's actually a credit earning class.
Oh, it's a class.
Yeah.
They have a BJJ club.
They did have a club.
They did have a club, and they still do. But now they actually have an accredited class that you can take for credits.
So yeah, that's what I mostly see now is that
As
becoming more of a thing in the high school and college level. So I think it'll just be more widespread all around.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it would ever be a collegiate sport.
I think almost certainly.
I mean,
judo is not a collegiate sport though.
True.
Well, not here, but don't they have it a lot overseas?
Oh yeah. I mean, they're like stadiums built.
Apparently, just the U.S. is not big on judo, but a lot of other places are. I was just watching a bunch of the judo highlights on YouTube. Yeah, that stuff's great
especially
to watch.
now that they've like implemented like a 2-minute.
It also reinforces my desire to never train judo.
Yeah, because like you value like your spine.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
exactly.
but they get crash pads and stuff out. Like
yeah, but when it still sucks to get.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Man. Like, do you what's your favorite thing in jiu-jitsu around? Like, what do you like to do?
Mostly. If I'm on top, I'm usually just working that crush pass. That's normally what I try to do. And on the bottom, I try to work a lot of knee shield these days. Just kind of basic stuff, just trying to cement some sort of core game. So then when I branch out, I have kind of a safe place to go. But I'm still sort of nascent in my overall technique journey.
What was it like when you made the transition from white belt to blue belt? Did anything change for you? Did you feel like the roles changed? Like people talk about like, oh, you get your blue belt and then suddenly...
You got a huge target on your back?
Yeah, like the restrictor plates are off that your opponents. Like they're like, oh, we can go hard with this guy now.
That definitely. Xander's just drooling in the mouth every time he saw me after I got my blue belt. Like that was his.
But
whole
he's
goal
a lower
in life.
belt though.
I know that's exactly why.
He's a blue belt now, but he was a white belt at the time.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly. They want to have that feather in their cap.
Oh, so you're saying the white belt's coming up?
Blue belt.
Oh yeah.
They know you're the newest blue belt, so they're like, oh, take that guy out, and that's how I get my.
Well, Chris is feeling that with the brown belts.
Oh, but yeah,
the brown belts are like, ooh, I'm going to try and have a black belt now.
And you know, it's sort of like what Tommy said. Like,
and I can't lie, I'm looking at the new purple belts the same way, so it's fine.
Like, I don't fight my way out of stuff. Like, I value my limbs, I value my joints, and like, if I have to like tweak something to like avoid getting tapped by like a white belt or blue belt, I'll tap. I don't care,
No,
right?
dude.
Like,
You get your neck get cranked.
No.
And you just sit there, and then you can't drive. You can't look over your left shoulder for a week while you're driving.
You got to do the Batman.
But guess
turn.
what? You didn't tap.
Never tap to heel hooks. It's right there on the wall.
What do you feel about heel hooks? Explain.
I just run away screaming if anyone even grabs my feet.
Me too.
I don't play around with that at all. I think Mark got me in a knee bar the other day, or he was just like,
yeah. Cole, are you listening?
Yeah. The bully of the gym, as everyone's well known.
He is definitely.
But no, he just got close to him. Like, you get it. I'm done now. That's it. I need to be able to stand upright.
Just stomp on his taint.
Give him an oil check.
Just stop with your heel. That's the knee bar defense.
Then he'll text Johnson, punch you in the mouth. So, do you spend much time on YouTube looking at videos?
Yeah. What's your
I forcibly make myself do that less. I have a few save videos that I review every once in a while, relevant to things that I'm not telling you. That's my secret jiu-jitsu backlog.
It's okay.
But I used to spend just all day just on looking at videos, but it just screws you up. It just confuses me, and then I get confused in roles and end up getting smashed.
He's probably got the old Tommy passing lasso guard from the ATT Orlando playlist.
Oh yeah, definitely
with that
lasso
music.
Guard.
They always that same music. Where do you get that music?
It's from the like fair use like thing that he's.
Yeah, I saw Paul's videos from like 3 years ago or whenever he stopped doing videos.
That's funny. So who do you follow competitions and stuff? Like, what do you?
I watch highlights here and there and occasional gi matches. To be honest, I find watching professional gi matches kind of boring. Like, it's just not as good. I'll watch no gi all day. It's much more. I love watching 10th Planet stuff. I love watching Quintet. That's my favorite one. Quintet is the best format that's out there.
Shows, basically, like you like the 400-pound guy versus the 135-pound guy.
Hey, occasionally that makes for a good match. It really does. Like the upsets still happen occasionally. It makes it interesting. But I just think as far as like a spectator sport for jiu-jitsu, Quintet is the best format that's been put out so far. That's my personal opinion. Yes.
Over something like Polaris is so even like Polaris where it's like a
Polaris is fine. The Eddie Bravo stuff is fine, or whatever they call combat jiu-jitsu is. I get combat jiu-jitsu; it makes sense, but it also still kind of looks ridiculous a lot of the time.
Why does it look
Occasionally,
ridiculous?
somebody will catch like a true like Boss Rutan like hand slap, and then that hurt. But the rest of the time, it's like a lot of this. It's like a lot of hand flailing. It looks like even if it does hurt, it just doesn't look that intense. It just.
Well, it sounds like we're gonna have to do one here.
Paul,
again,
next part of curriculum.
This is coming from the guy that hates getting hit in the face. So he starts slapping me around and be like, "You win, just get away from me."
So so I teach Saturday mornings at 11. Next Saturday morning, I usually do my little rules thing, which I didn't do today.
I was surprised.
I know, but I was outranked by like 7 people. But so I'll do it this time. I'll say, you know what? You're allowed to do jits with light hits. How much is that going to change things? How much do you think it'll change?
That will increase eye gouges by 500%.
Do you think so? If I require a fingers together, light tap on the head, and we'll say for every light tap that you score on somebody, that person's got to do 5 push-ups.
Oh my god!
This is gonna be awesome,
dude. People are gonna have 100 push-ups.
Oh, it's gonna be so fun, right? So like that's what we need to do though, right? Like that's true jiu-jitsu.
Oh, now you're doing the whole like. Back when I learned jiu-jitsu, self-defense.
I didn't say that.
You're like doing the Chris Howder
but right, like, but what? Okay, how much do you think? So
I don't know if that works for gi jiu-jitsu. I think they should have no gi classes where they do the padded gloves and a little bit of strikes.
So that's basically
maybe
MMA.
as a separate class.
Yeah.
I think that's more useful for that. But as far as gi goes, I kind of prefer the pure technique on
Tristan,
that side.
1 to 10. Where do you rank yourself in terms of I can defend myself on the street? 10 being I'm all any bro. 1 being super scared still.
All right, one question: will they let me start on the knees?
Yes.
No. What? Hang on, time out. Everyone's starting the knees.
Yeah, my answer to that question is entirely whether I can get that person.
No,
to the
are we
ground or
assuming
not.
untrained opponent?
Untrained opponent, bro, on the street, dude.
Oh.
Untrained opponent, my size, I feel probably 70 to 80% confident.
Ooh, you're 7 or 8. Okay.
Unless they catch me with a real good shot coming in, I feel like I can get someone to the ground, and once they're on the ground, I feel like I can do well. I just run in, just try to catch that overhand swing.
Well, it sounds like we got to work on that now. Paul's like, I don't know if that's a technical answer. Just run in.
You just run in, man. It's pure overwhelming wrestling style. You run in, you catch that one overhand right they're throwing at you, and then you just pin it to their side and just go to the ground, man. That's it.
Just let it go a little bit.
Yeah. The longer you're out there at like jabbing range, that's just going to be bad for me. You got to go right
10,
for
where
it.
are you? Untrained dude.
Oh, 10.
Oh! I'm gonna go find me a bum. I
was gonna do that again. I've heard that they've done that here in the past.
Please.
I feel like Noah could actually like walk up to somebody, sit down, and like butt scoot his way into victory, like even on the street.
I mean, realistically, a 9. I think like you always have to assume.
Everybody's got a puncher's chance. You can't be more than a 9.
Yeah, we discussed that in like 1, right? But so like I was listening.
But it's like I haven't gone with a pure beginner in a while. When you go with a pure beginner, it's scary how you can manipulate their body, and they have no clue what they're doing.
That's very true.
Yes,
you know.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think the risk is closing the distance. But once I have my hands around you, I mean, I even feel confident with a big guy who's just going to squeeze my head because I feel like that's the most common reaction is like a guy's going to do like a schoolboy on you, and I think that it might suck, but I'll wait it out and then I'll mount them and then I'm off to the races.
That's exactly right. You forget because you train with people here so often that when someone knows nothing, they literally have no options. Again, it's like magic how easy it is. Like even today, I went against that giant white belt Calvin, huge guy, but 300 pounds or something like that.
Is that the dude with the dreads?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just you're just literally walking over him into mount.
Calvin.
Like he's a huge, strong guy, but
give Calvin a few months.
Yeah,
he's gonna be a nightmare when he actually learns some jiu-jitsu. I know that up front.
Like across his.
That's why I'm getting all my reps in on him now, and they'll be like, I'm gonna sit out this one when he gets good.
Yeah. Oh, you've learned the trick. I'm proud of you.
That's
partner selection. That's the key.
Grab your knee. You're like, I can't go this one. It's
Tristan, so what drew you to martial arts in the first place?
I mean, you grow up and everyone's into martial arts when they're little, right? You're watching Bruce Lee, you're watching Power Rangers. Everyone wants to learn karate. It's always something.
What about the Ninja Turtles? Fuck
Ninja Turtles, obviously. Yes,
I fucking hate the Power Rangers.
Dude, I had the deep cuts. I had like 3 Ninjas. I had like all those really bad like martial arts movies.
Also,
all the Steven Seagal stuff.
To be fair, we talk about the Ninja Turtles having a big influence on the upswing of karate schools in the United States, or the upswing in enrollments. We've never talked about Street Fighter. Like, that video game is like so ingrained. Is that
actually influence on martial arts? I feel like that's influence on people wanting to throw fireballs, but I don't think that brought a lot of people to karate.
Influencing on wasting their money at the arcade.
Yeah, but I think that's in that genre, as we like to say.
So that's the thing, though, right? Like, I would say Jean-Claude Van Damme is a bigger influence, because imagine the first time you saw Bloodsport, right? You're like, holy shit, this is real life Street Fighter. And then you
saw the Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
With Jean-Claude Van Damme. But like, I mean, so what's your favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Tristan?
Bloodsport. Has to be Bloodsport.
Hell yeah,
dude. Time Cop.
Get out of here.
Are you serious? I mean, Universal Soldier is really good.
Actually, the best Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, answering seriously, is an independent film called JCVD.
Oh, well, I mean, that's an independent film.
Yeah. Did you see that movie?
I know of it.
It's phenomenal. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it.
Yeah, it's in French and English. It's
I
absolutely
imagine it's just
phenomenal.
him doing that split on 2 chairs that he does.
No,
for 2 hours.
Dude, I think he could have gotten an Oscar for that. Like, his acting, like, he makes fun of himself and he acts really well, and it's a play on his actual situation. Like, like he's paying alimony to these kids and stuff, and basically he becomes a hostage in a local post office in Belgium. And they're like, it's Jean-Claude Van Damme. So everyone's like...
So he's actually playing himself.
He plays himself, exactly.
But it's fictional.
Yes, absolutely.
What have you ever competed, Tristan?
I have not, no. I used to compete in wrestling in high school. That was the last time I ever did
that's where you're like, I can see the Pojada come through.
The what now?
Pojada.
You're just making up words. I don't know what that is.
Wait, oh my God.
Take away a stripe, ladies and gentlemen.
You don't know what Pojada means?
You're the only one that comes into class like saying the names of things. Like, even when I did my blue belt test, I didn't know what anything was called. I knew techniques, but no one ever tells you what anything's named until you like look at the pamphlet.
So would you say that that's a fundamental flaw of the way Jiu-Jitsu is taught?
I mean, only when you're doing a podcast. I think the rest of the time you just learn the muscle memory and you drill the technique, and it doesn't really matter what it's called.
Okay, fair enough. So Pojada, I think it means like grind.
It means scrap.
Scrap.
It's a Portuguese word for like scrap or scuffle, and it came about through Romulo. Through Romulo.
Oh yeah, Humulo.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't do
your strike.
At least I don't say Gracie Barra. I don't say Gracie Barra. I say Gracie Baja. So Humulo, he kind of brought that into, when you start using a word and suddenly it catches on. So he was saying Pojada a lot for just like going hard, leaving it on the mat sort of thing. And he actually has a gi line that uses everyday Pojada on it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because that's what Chihuahua bought. He bought a one like hashtag Pojada. Or everyday Pojada. That's where the whole hashtag thing.
Because you said he's got one, I'm not going to get one.
Oh. So that's where that kind of thing comes from. But if we were to say it would be Parada.
Yeah, because the
P-O-R-R-A, yeah.
But it's just like, it's like the Nutella thing too, like in Jiu-Jitsu. Like, there's just these little like catchphrases, and like everyday Pojada is like, just everyday like, it's just sort of like getting away from the Jiu-Jitsu is for everyone. Like, oh, Jiu-Jitsu is getting soft. You got to come in and just fucking beat ass.
I don't think Pojada means you have to, like, it's exclusive.
No?
No, I just think it.
I mean, the fact that I can only use it via satirization. Like, I want nothing to do with it.
To me, it's just going hard, And actually,
how hard do you guys think is appropriate for a Monday to Friday jiu-jitsu class? Are you coming into class like, I got to work on everybody I'm
What do
going
you think?
against?
What do you think? Because I like this. What's your opinion on this? What?
Explain.
Yeah. What's the intensity level that you expect in rolls? Not expect, that you want in rolls.
For me, because of my size. I'm not the biggest guy in the gym, but I'm one of the bigger guys in the gym. So for me, it depends a lot on who I'm going with. If someone's a lot smaller than me, then I'm not going to go as hard because that just means that I'm just muscling someone
You're
around.
Disrespecting the little person.
That's not to say I go easy. That just means I limit myself to doing just enough.
Victor, he's going easy on you.
No, Victor doesn't count. Victor gets all the weight. Victor, I'm trying to fold him in half.
There you go. Victor's happy now.
Talk about normal human people, not jiu-jitsu phenoms over here.
All right. So what I'm wondering is, how often would you say you train a week?
I try to come at least 4 days a week.
Yeah, okay.
I make it between probably 4 to 6.
So I'm going to say that, like, I want to just first make this statement because I made this. I was talking to Casey, and I think it was just a simple observation, but I think it's really, I think everyone can identify with it, which is if we're rolling, right, and I'm rolling with someone, and they tap me, immediately I'm like, oh well, I was practicing stuff, like I'm going through the motions, I'm doing my thing, So of course, I'm not doing my A game. But of course, if I tap someone, I'm assuming that now they're going like 100%. Oh, I got them going 100%. You know what I mean? Like I don't apply the same logic. It's like when I get tapped.
Why don't you?
It's ego. But it's like when I get tapped, it's because I'm practicing. When I tap them, they were going 100% competition style, and I got them. You know what I mean? And I think we all kind of do that in a way to varying degrees, at least at lower belt ranks, when tapping out matters more. I think once you've tapped out a certain amount of time, and I probably haven't hit that that level yet, where it's like, okay, at this point I don't give a fuck anymore. I feel like that's where Chris is like, okay, I've tapped a million times already. It's like it's not the end of the world. But independent of that little statement, you training 4 days a week, in terms of 0 to 100%, 100% being like going all out like you're in a competition, where is your intensity level? Is it the same? Does it vary?
It depends entirely on who I'm going against. If I'm going against Jovan, then I'm going 100% because I have to, or I'm going to die. If I'm going against somebody smaller, somebody less experienced, then I might hold myself back because I do get tired.
What about
fast.
Yoga John? Is he strong?
Say what? Going against who?
Yoga John.
John Rumsey.
Sorry.
John, I can go. With him, you got to bring all your strength, but you don't have to go 100% because he's more of a relaxed technique player. So I feel like I don't have to go with 100%.
I feel like John's gonna come after you.
John.
Go after Tristan now.
Tristan just said
shots fired.
I got no problems with John. He's good. He's strong. But
you don't have days where you're like, I want to go easier.
Oh, I definitely do.
Yeah,
I mean,
do you cycle? Like, what do you what is your training
It depends a lot how I'm feeling. If I'm coming in, 6 days a week, then 2 or 3 of those days might be, I'm only gonna do 1 or 2 rolls that day. It just depends on, how, some days you're more beat up than other days. I'm getting older now. I was never in good shape to begin with, so it's a lot of just day to day how I'm feeling. Some days I come in and I feel, like I could, run 10 miles. Some days I come in and ask myself why I even showed up that day. It's a real kind of day to day thing for me. So
what motivates you to come in and train? Especially on that day, like you said, where it's like, I feel like
on the days when I don't want to go, it's like when I almost make myself go more, because if I start giving into that, then I'll go for another 12 years and not come back. Like I just have that. Like if I take too many days off, like at some point I'll just lose the thread of it. So
do you
and there's a lot of you don't want the guys that you started with, the guys that you're at the same level at, to surpass you. Like you want to be able to keep pace. So that draws me back to the gym all the time.
There we go.
If I take many more days off, how much better is Mike going to get than me? And just come in and be, it's hard enough to keep up with that guy.
You said Mike. Mike who?
Mike. I forgot his last name already. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
he's got
also
more training time than all of us put together.
Yeah.
By the way.
And like Jovan, people like that, or Xander. Like if I take a few weeks off and Xander actually gets good at jiu-jitsu, like that's dead.
Xander!
Shots fired.
I said it. That's right.
So I felt the power of Xander the other day.
The dude is strong and he's got energy. It's like the
fuck.
worst role for me, man. It's like the worst of both worlds.
Like,
he's big, he's strong, and he's got energy for days. It's literally like my worst role.
He came in on Sunday when I did my 2-hour marathon roll, and I always catch him when he's tired, right? But dude, he was like,
well, his tired versus my tired is like night and day.
And I made him smile, which is score 1 for Chris. Dude, the guy is strong as fuck.
Yeah, he's a lot like Mike in the fact that he just keeps he just keeps moving and keeps pushing forward. So he'll he'll just keep attacking. You know what I mean? Like he won't sit there and contemplate grips.
Yeah, he's like Jovan like that, except add like 100 pounds or whatever.
Yeah. He's got that like tenaciousness. New blue belt. Right? Yeah. Xander, new blue belt. He came in like not knowing what to expect because like people were expecting like were you? Yeah, you were there on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people were like expecting like class, but I'm like, it's the fucking holiday. Like let's just roll, right? And so like people didn't realize like we'd been there for an hour, like drinking beer, and, and so like it was just like this. It was like Woodstock on the mat. It's just like everybody like rolling and like hugging each other and laughing and drinking beer. It was awesome.
I got that underhook, buddy.
Yeah, it was great. Like, so what do you
Well, there was a question you asked us and we reversed it on you. Your question was about intensity. So what were you asking? Because I asked you, I was like, you got to go first.
Yeah, it's just like how do you guys measure like. Chris is always like, I don't know if he's half asleep when we're rolling. I don't know if he's just like letting me play because he has a relaxed style. So it's impossible for me to gauge how hard he's going at any given point.
The age-old lower belt question.
With
how hard is the upper belt going with me?
And then with you, it's different because you're like, I don't know, 50, 60 pounds less than me. So
how much do you weigh?
But I'm about 210 right now, probably. After the holidays, I'm probably 212, 213.
I actually lost weight over the holidays.
Really?
I'm afraid to weigh myself if I'm honest.
I mean, I'm like 160, 45-pound difference. I'm trying to gain some weight.
I'm like 177, which is where I wanted to be. Because I don't snack when I'm at home, right? Like, I snack when I'm in front of a desk.
Oh, yeah, and at work, everyone's bringing in, like pastries. Everyone's got a birthday and anniversary.
I was hanging out with family, so it was all the sugar and alcohol I could ingest for a week's span.
So I can actually stick to my diet, and I get to work out when I want to when I'm at home.
But that's definitely something that I think is on lower belts' minds, where it's like, you wish you could see like everyone had like an effort gauge to see how hard they went. Like how hard did I push this upper belt today? You know, because that's how you're trying to gauge progress. It's like, is this guy working harder with me? You know what I mean?
So like when you guys start your rolls from the knees, right? Because that's what we do. We're lazy jiu-jitsu people. We don't like getting our necks.
I really thought that was more an artifact of so many people being on the mat because your risk for injury goes way through the roof if you have more than 5 groups on the mat. Like
so you don't have to deal with.
Because that's a big criticism about training jiu-jitsu, right? Is everyone starts on the knees, but I really think it's more of a practical thing.
I don't start on the knees. I start on my butt. Thank you very much.
Me too.
You start like laying down on your side, like with one eye closed, like slowly drifting off to sleep.
It's the Vu look of apathy. Is the coin term.
You lull them into a false sense of tiredness.
So, like, do you? I can say, like, for the most part, I will usually start on my right butt cheek, left foot in the air, because I like to play with my left butterfly hook, and I will gauge how hard I need to go based upon how hard that person is trying to beat my left knee. Maybe I'm so attuned to doing that like I can gauge that well. Like,
what if they don't want to beat your left knee and they want to beat something else? What if they just like? But
they have to deal with it, right?
No. What if they just leap over and grab a guillotine, like a flying guillotine?
It's the difference
over your
between
head?
like me just like pushing your knee away as hard as I can or pushing it down as hard as I can. And people are just like jumping around and running circles around.
Okay, so like if they're immediately jumping like a Sahibi, like because that's what he does, right? Like he's really good like switching directions.
Because like when you're talking about intensity, you're talking either strength or you're talking about like speed and agility. Like there's two separate sides.
So
of the
that's
coin.
the thing, right? Like so how do we define intensity? Intensity's a thing, like because I mean like my intensity is like you'll feel me use like isometric strength more, right? Like I'll tighten up a lot more instead of like being more relaxed because I'm not a very particularly like Okay, good. I was totally afraid that I just cracked my new phone.
You have a new phone?
No, I mean it's like 3 weeks old at this
point.
Okay. LG G8X, by the way, awesome. I got a free TV with it, so it's just great. Dude, great, best deal ever, right? So like I was up for renewal. I was like a year overdue, and they're like LG just released the new phone. It's like the 3rd generation past my G6, because the X, right? And so, like, it's got the dual screen. I'm like, oh, I did all the reviews. I'm like, this is awesome. Now I can watch like Gordon Ryan and play my like DC Legends game at the same time because it's got a dual screen. So I like researched it. It's got good reviews on CNET and Android Central. So like I signed up for the thing. I got the like $200 like MasterCard gift card off of it, plus the free dual screen, which is on its way. And I'm like, I registered for that, and it says like, oh, would you like to see if you qualify for more deals? Yes, I would. And there, sure enough, is one for a fucking 50-inch smart TV from LG also, right?
For how much?
For free, bro.
That's a deal? Like, that's an offer? Like, that's just a giveaway at that point.
Why would you, like, I'm like, of course I would want a free TV. So, like, I got my phone.
And that was an LG, not a, like, Bob's Chinese knockoff?
Dude,
like,
LG, bro. It's legit. I'm waiting on the TV. It's still, it's...
It's not...
Hey, I got the email approval message right here. So I can call that number.
This is going to be slower than BJJ HQ. It's going to be like...
Yeah,
the guy's going to have it on his back walking all the way from China.
So they're super legit, though, right? Because, like, I did this deal when I got my G6, when I got a free Google Home, which I still use to this day, and a 50-inch television, which I still use to this day. Oh my God. But the first TV came super cracked. It was smashed. And, like, I emailed them back. I'm like, hey, I need a new TV. Like, because look at this shit. And, like, they sure enough sent me a new TV, and it's awesome.
Maybe they did that intentionally to get, like, curry favor with you. Because haven't you heard it's like, how do you, like, impress a customer? You mess up, and then you make it up to them, is how you handle the mistake.
That's some deep consumer conspiracy theories over there.
So is that a thing, though, right? Like, wouldn't it be better? Is it better to correct a mistake, or is it better to do it exceptional the first time? Explain.
I think psychologically, I want to say it's been shown that the former actually generates a bigger reaction. Obviously, if you do great customer service, that's good. But if you really want to impress someone, you go above and beyond when you make a mistake.
Yeah, if you do it right the first time, you're essentially just meeting expectation. Whereas if you come back, then they feel like you went above and beyond.
But you still fucked up.
Correct, but
like that can happen to anybody, right? A TV gets smashed in the mail, like that's not necessarily their fault. You assume they didn't ship a broken TV.
That's super like deep conspiracy,
right? So there's a quality assurance guy at Amazon.
Like, they did this on purpose.
He's a quality assurance guy at Amazon. With like a little hammer,
like checking for texts.
And
Victor, what are you doing? What the hell was that, man? I wish I got that on like.
That was
Boomerang.
text boxing. You don't know that? It's like.
I'm sorry.
He was like shadow boxing with his phone.
Boxing with a phone, looking in the mirror. You're feeling yourself?
Did you make sure your abs?
That's got to be like the most millennial fighter move, right?
I know. Like,
were your abs on point?
Hey man, don't hate. You old guys, middle aged man.
Wow.
So guess
don't hate.
So everyone, it's open season on leg locks on Victor because ever since he went skiing, he said, "I have ACLs of
That's
steel."
right. He did say invincible ACLs.
I will not fucking tap to any of you.
Wow.
Open season inside heel hooks. Here we come.
Now you know he gets the full 215 every time we roll.
Oh yeah. Pizza down a black diamond slope. ACLs, just fine, boys.
Victor, did we ever find out who got your chicken fingers?
Oh yeah.
I highly suspect it was Kyle because he alluded to it, but then he said it was a air quotes joke. So Kyle, I'm coming for you, man.
So let me.
And Kyle wants a second stripe, so we're gonna pit the two against you, and he could get a second stripe depending on how he performs.
Man, I will fuck that boy up.
How did you guys not just smell everybody's breath?
Because it was hours after. It was like it was in the fridge. Yeah, we went out skiing and then we come.
That's what I would do. I'd be like, let me smell your breath.
Right now. You're doing food forensics over here.
Do you smell like chicken
Forensic Files next on A&E. So we talked about effort. What?
Well, you never answered. I gave you my. How do you deal with my left leg?
I mean, for me, it's how I feel.
With me, it's hard to gauge your intensity because you're in good shape. So to me, it always feels like you're going 100% just because you're constantly moving all the time.
I mean, I think for me, it's who I'm going with, it's how I'm feeling, and when you train, I think it depends.
Do you ratchet up as it gets closer to like as they get dominant position, or it's like
no, actually, when if someone gets side control on me. I chill out even more because I'm like, okay, I'm not in any hurry to get out of here. Like I'm not playing points on the mat, so I just kind of chill.
That's very Henner Gracie of you.
Yeah, right. It was Henner and.
Do you compete?
I competed once. I compete. Well, I don't have like if I want some hard rolls, I'll just go with the guys here and go hard. Maybe later, but I haven't had the itch to compete in a while. I think competing is just to get hard rolls in with strangers and just kind of measure yourself. The winning that doesn't do anything for me, but I think...
Look at this guy's already transcended ego.
No, I mean, obviously I like to win, and if I sign up for a tournament, like I want to win. Don't get me wrong, like I'm hyper competitive, but I think like going back to the Globetrotters thing, training in Iceland and doing those open mats and rolling with strangers, even though it wasn't super hard, it was a great measuring stick and barometer of kind of where I felt I was in the whole ocean of, white, blue, purple, brown.
You really get
black.
a nice slice of like worldwide jiu-jitsu at
Absolutely.
every level.
What did you find? Did you see differences? Like, what did you learn in terms of not learn, but what did you notice as like, what do we do differently? What do they do differently? What do we focus on? What do they focus on?
It's hard to gauge because you don't know if it's a difference of just, they go to a different school, so they emphasize different things. Like I saw things there that I wouldn't normally see against blue belts here, but that could just be because they teach it a little differently. Like I said, everyone's sort of speaking the same language, but maybe they come at it from a slightly different angle.
What's an example of something that you saw a few times there that would be unusual for us to do?
So over there, as far as going with blue belts, there's a lot more people that would immediately stand up to try to pass your guard. A lot of the blue belts here will stay on the ground to try to pass your guard.
Oh, I don't like that.
It's interesting because, like, so I think that's a big gauge of, like, level of, not, I guess, confidence on the mat, is, like, whether or not you're willing to stand. Agree or disagree?
You mean, like, start standing or go to your feet?
Just
like,
go to your feet to pass.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of what you get used to. Like, a lot of the techniques you start here at white belt, they start you on your knees, so that's how you learn it. So you don't think to stand up. But then once you get sort of going against better people, you realize it doesn't really work if you're on your knees a lot of the time, unless you're doing something specific. Like when I go with you, I'm usually trying to pin a leg to the ground or something, like hold something in place at the same time. Because I feel like if I stand against you, I'm in a worse spot because you know a lot more of like, your De La Rivas and your, weird X guards and your stuff that I don't know how to defend. So I try to stay in places that I feel more comfortable. But if I'm going against another blue belt here, then I'd be happy to stand up because I feel like I have more options.
I find that a lot of people pass on their knees, and I'm kind of surprised by it. I don't know, because I don't think Paul teaches that personally.
No, I think it's a more natural, and this is from years of experience, is that, like, it's harder to get swept from your knees, right? Like, because you're close to the ground. It's also harder to pass, though, right?
That's the thing. It's like you're not as threatening.
Right, but you're not as, like, so, like, have you guys you've rolled with Chris, God, is that his name? I'm terrible.
Yes. It is Chris.
It is the turtle.
Yeah, the blue belt.
Like, the blue belt turtle guy.
Yeah.
Right, like he's this, like he's got no neck and he's got.
I call him the boulder.
Yeah, he's literally he's grappling like I describe Victor as like grappling a wet water balloon.
Basically, every time I've ever gone with him,
Wait,
we've just been in one
call
place
Victor
for about
a
5
wet
minutes.
water balloon?
Yeah.
You call Victor a wet water balloon?
Yeah.
What?
Have you ever tried to grapple a wet water balloon?
No.
I mean, like,
Come over here, Victor. You've
What
just
is
been
this
characterized.
analogy?
You are a drum roll, please. A wet water balloon.
So, like, imagine-
why does it have to be
You're
wet?
the wet
though?
noodle of jiu-jitsu.
Why does it have to be wet?
so I mean, like, have you ever? Okay, when was the last time you guys played with a water balloon?
Chris, why are you calling me out, man? What did they do to you?
So like,
I'm guessing this is
have
complimentary, but I don't know. It
I have
sounds
this
like
like built-in like profile for every person I grapple with. Like I have like my dossiers.
You're just
of, like,
assigning them as random and
Yeah,
So
inanimate
like,
items.
So
I'm a
wait.
what? I'm a what? Say it again. I'm a
a
what?
wet water balloon.
how about
like
a water balloon just like covered
But
in
it doesn't
Vaseline?
work, right?
In
Like, 'cause
Vaseline, that
a
makes more
water
sense.
balloon doesn't like if it's not wet or lubricated of some.
There we go.
Oh, you're a lubricated water balloon.
Like it doesn't.
I'm
you
a
can hold on to it
KY
still, right?
jelly
You can
water
squeeze it.
balloon.
But like Victor is so like you can't get a hold of the guy, right?
He's saying you're elusive.
So he's a wet water balloon. But
So you're
like
calling me a KY jellied water balloon because I'm small? Is that,
hey,
is that what?
they're not a sponsor.
I'm
so
small.
let's calm it down now.
Because I'm a small guy.
A personal lubricant water balloon.
So you're saying you try to wrap up Victor and he squirts out is what you're saying. You
Basically,
try to hug him. You're like, I want to hug you, and he squirts out.
Yeah, he just oozes his way out from wherever you have, right? So, but like Chris is
He's a boulder.
He's a boulder. He's literally.
So wait, how am I characterized?
He's literally the immovable object.
Wait a minute.
Oh my God.
Wait a minute.
And he grabs your lapels.
Hang on. How am I characterized then? In the dossier. Come on, if you've given Victor one, you had to have given me one.
I would say it's funny because I haven't given you like an action figure yet. I would say,
dude, he's got a shelf and he's got Victor Padilla. He has a little water balloon. He puts some KY jelly on it. You know?
But like Chris is like essentially
you're a greased up pinwheel. That's what you are.
Potato head, right? Okay. Like he's got a torso with just like some limbs that you can't really grab onto. Because he just like keeps his elbows.
I can't say I'm too flattered by this. Chris.
Like you should be.
Because he wants top control, and there's nothing about heavy top pressure with when you think of a lubricated water balloon. No, but it's like it slides off. It's like he gets on top and he just slides off.
Yeah, I can't say I'm too like, you know.
Chris, it's not a comment on the human form. That's got to be a commentary on your personality somehow. I don't know.
But like, so Sahibi to me is
he's dodging me. He's probably got a bad one.
No, I'm trying to like I have my like little dossiers of like how I have to deal with people, and like, but like you, I haven't rolled it enough to be honest to be able to.
We're gonna have to have a calibration roll then.
We do.
I want to see that the guy that's half asleep or the guy that's like running a marathon.
Yeah. Okay, so like when do you
Okay, what about Yoga John? How do you characterize him? Let's throw
Yoga John. All right, so Yoga John he's the guy
very strong.
Yeah, he's very strong. He is.
Noah,
you
need to say it, Noah.
No, is strong, but he's also like a technique guy. He's not strong like me. Like I try to crush people. That's my thing. I go forward. I try to crush. He's just like I'm gonna relax till you screw up and then do something.
We just have to
jiu-jitsu wise.
We have to have for the record. Noah needs to say that John is very. For the record, Noah has to say that John is very strong.
John,
did you feel it?
John, yeah, he brought the heat. He brought the heat. It was good. I told him, I was like, I owe you a roll, even though I never called him out specifically. It was by omission.
Oh, but he called you out by way of you calling him indirectly out.
By omission, yeah, by omission. Oh. No, it was, dude. It's like anything. It's like we're all going back to effort. If we all were going 100%, we would all be injured. You know what I mean?
I can't hear you saying it.
Dude, John is a strong dude.
There we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
He's really strong.
I think you're supposed to be very strong.
Oh my God, this is so bad.
Okay,
dude. I'm the kind of guy, like, I see him because he comes in, his shirt's off. It's like it's like carved out of a granite. I'm like, dude, did you lose some weight? You're looking thin. You know what I mean? That's how I fuck with him. You know what I mean? He's like, what am I? He's like, whoa.
He was like one of the very few guys when I came back to the gym and saw him. I was like, no, thank you. No, I'm okay.
No, he
turns out he's like a great training partner.
He's an
really good dude.
Training partner. Like, he's very mindful of training. How do you try to be mindful of training, Tristan? Like, when you roll, you're like, I'm trying to work on this today, regardless of what's going on in the curriculum, or you're like, I'm gonna try to really fine tune what's going on in the curriculum.
That's actually something I've been struggling with a lot lately, since like getting my blue belt, like trying to focus on things and like improve certain parts of my game. But I find that when we start rolling, because I'm obviously not that good and I don't like getting crushed, I tend to fall back to the same things over and over again. So really just trying to force myself to work a particular position is actually challenging for me. So I try to just work on places I find myself inevitably, essentially turtle and knee shield, because those are the places I always end up. So trying to
turtle bottom or turtle top?
Turtle bottom, because that's where I go when I can't breathe, which is most of the time.
Okay. And what do you like? What is your goal from there now? Do you try to escape, or do you try to like roll to guard, or what?
Yeah, the goal is to not stay there anymore, because I can ride out a whole round in turtle. That's like, I literally live there. Like, yeah, go ahead and try to choke me. I'm probably going to be fine. So now it's like trying to actually progress from that position and actually get back to guard or sweep or something, or escape.
Would you appreciate if there was more structure to the sparring sections of class? Like, would you appreciate more situational sparring versus just free rolling?
Absolutely. I think that's something we should definitely do more, because you can explore positions more. You can try things if you start in a position over and over, rather than having that one opportunity to work, from top turtle or side control or whatever in a match. If you're constantly resetting, I think it gives you more options to sort of branch out from that position, which I think is helpful.
Yeah. So I will say this, though. I agree with that 100%. However, what's funny is on a day like this, when there are so many grapplers, It was just like let everyone go, like let the horses ride today. You know what I mean?
So it's like I see what you're doing, Noah.
No, and then people, because you start. So just for the record, Chris started with, all right, 5 people out, 5 people on them. People on the bottom, you're trying to sweep or submit. People on top, pass or submit. You know, and I had people like actually
groan?
saying like, huh?
Did they groan?
They verbally kind of go, they're like, I just want to roll, man. Like, this is not the time, Chris, you know?
Oh, okay. Well, then that's fair, right? So, like, but that's, so as an instructor.
Like, we had how many? We had 3 white belts, and we probably had 25 plus people.
Oh, I should have snapped a photo. Fuck.
Yeah. And I didn't take a photo with Sahibi either. In the last, like, I forgot to do.
I tried to. Damn it. I've got several.
Yeah, I know you got.
Some of them are terrible. Some of them are great. I'll post the terrible ones. So
just the ones with my face are terrible. I know.
But so that's the balance, right? Because like you have to balance as an instructor, learning, safety, work.
Well, for development, 100% situational sparring. In fact, more so than just saying having a guard retention section. You know what I mean? Like guard retention drills, which is what we basically did. I think the fact that everyone's back from break, right? Everyone's got a few extra.
This is like maybe it's just my perspective. I feel like this is like weekends are like fun days. This is when everybody just want to kind of
blow their wad.
Your Monday through Friday classes are when you do the work.
You know, so they just want to blow their wad after holiday. Plus, everybody was here, and it was like I said, it's like Murderers Row. You know,
it was terrifying.
You know, it was Murderers Row, and I didn't even go with many of the murderers. Like on the.
It's funny because like
it's like when Zach shows up, you're like, okay.
With Zach, and I was like, oh god, like I forgot how good he is. Like it's been a while since I
Coach Zach,
yes, but he's so good, and I forgot how it's been a while since I've rolled with.
He's a strong dude too.
Yes, he's got some breaker will pressure. I forgot how just like Ryan Wilkerson from any position. Even in, quote, inferior position, can reverse it based purely on Ryan Wilkerson.
You mean attribute-based movements?
Yeah, I mean, like, he's so good at, like, just finding these little tiny, like, inches of space where he can apply pressure and just completely sweep you from something, like... But anyways, yeah, today was definitely a Murderer's Row, as you put it. Okay, so I'll keep that in mind. More Murderers Row, more Pohada.
Well,
20 minutes of rolling was not enough for you? 5 4-minute rounds?
Yeah, I would have appreciated, like, honestly, like, if you went 35 minutes and you had the 30, like kill them, like, wear people out kind of thing in one of those days, I think would have been good.
I don't think you need to emphasize that with Chris's class.
No.
Seems like he always wants to go, marathon drilling and marathon rolling. I had a
genius moment, too, because we were sitting there, and Andre and I were talking, and it was like, dude, people are going to go so hard right now, you know? And then we had this realization. If you have us roll, and let's say you do the first roll, you set it 8 minutes, that will suddenly put brakes on people going crazy, because they know I can't sprint and make it to the finish line.
So that's an interesting question, right? Like, okay, Tristan, you've been doing it for many years now, right? What's your ideal minute of rounds for rolling, just in training every day? Of rolling, not drilling, just pure rolling.
No, I think the last 15, 20 minutes of class is about right.
How long do you want each round?
Oh, me? Probably 2 minutes. That's about all I got. No, I don't mind a 5-minute round. I mean, I'm gonna get exhausted regardless. I've never had great cardio my whole life, so I just tend to adjust. I'm gotten to the point where I can at least adjust my own pace if we're doing full 5-minute rounds. But I also like, shorter rounds to mix it up because I feel like I can do more techniques. So for me, I prefer to just kind of do sort of whatever the instructor's feeling. It's nice to have it sometimes shorter rounds, nice to have longer rounds. The ones where you just go, the classes where you start at 11:30 and then we do a half hour of just like no rest and just like going around, like those are the ones that just absolutely destroy me as a human person.
But do you enjoy it?
I do.
Okay.
Once everyone else is as tired as me, I enjoy it.
What was the longest time that you spent doing an open mat in the Globetrotters camp? Because they do open mats like every day, I feel like.
Yeah, well, they did what? hour and a half, 2 hour open mats, but because of the humidity and like just the sheer exhaustion factor, it was like I would do 5 minutes and then I'd like wait a round or two and then do another 5 minutes, because like really trying to stay conscious of like not getting super dehydrated. You're cramping up all the time because you're sweating so much. So that's like a whole different environment, because you're contending with the weather and just sweating that much and being that exhausted and that drained.
Did they provide resources like water and Gatorade and stuff?
They had water. I think you mostly had to buy most of your own water and stuff. They had a little grocery store, so everyone had these giant, 6-packs of like, 3-liter bottles or whatever that everyone was lugging around the island.
Like I think it's cool to have like a time where you roll for like you have a marathon open mat session, like multi-hour. Like I did that in Iceland. Yeah, I did that in Iceland, and it was really cool because you talk about hitting a flow state. Like you don't care about tapping anymore. You just like you're grabbing people. Like you have a minute. You go 5 minutes on, 1 minute off, sure. And you just grab a stranger and you go.
That's true. Once you get past like the third or fourth round,
you
of
just
that,
go,
it's
man.
like yeah,
it's just a flow state.
And so that's my thing, right? Like so back in the day when I was teaching at like full time at Winter Springs, my thing was the last 30 minutes of class we're doing 7-minute rounds with no rest. Like use a 7-minute round with person.
Define no rest.
No rest. Like 7 minutes is up, grab a new person, go.
Okay.
Like literally no rest, and that's what I like. Sort of like
yeah. So that's not even a round. That's just with the same person, and then you're just moving on to a new person. But the round is continuous, essentially.
You just end up doing the same thing anyway, right? Like, what do you like? Do you guys feel as though, I stopped doing that just because like I feel as though it sort of like alienates people who aren't as serious.
Oh, I agree. I don't think you should maybe do it at the gym unless you actually say, "Hey guys, this Sunday or this Saturday we're going to do a marathon sesh." So it's elective. It has to be elective. If you obligate everyone in a class to do that, no, then it's torture.
Do you think it would really? I mean, like, but it would make.
The other thing is in these open mats, it's not like when I was in Iceland, I did I think a 3 or 4 hour one. I think I want to say 3 because 4 hours sounds too long.
Yeah, 4 hours sounds.
But I did 3 hours, and did that mean I was rolling every round? No, there was a few times in there where I was like, okay, I'm going to rest 6 minutes instead of 1 minute because I'm going to just sit down, watch, and then grab another person and go. But that's kind of, I think if you did that in an open mat scenario where everyone's just kind of sitting around and grabbing people, I think done occasionally, it's a cool experience for the person. But it's also made more interesting because I think here you're rolling with the same people, so you don't have the novelty of rolling with brand new people. So it's almost like speed dating when you're at a camp, right? It's a form of speed dating, right?
That's true. When you hear there's like a narrower like group of people that you want to roll with.
Yeah.
What makes you not want to roll with somebody then?
Tristan? Oh yeah.
You just said I want to roll with what makes you not want to roll with a certain person?
Well, it's not even like. So if you're going like a marathon session, I'm already exhausted. Do I want to go with like Ryan or like a brown belt like that I know is just going to destroy me, and I don't even have like the conditioning to like fend them off? Like that's not a fun round for anybody. Well, maybe it's fun for them because they can just do whatever they want.
Got to weed out the weak.
But the thing is, they used to have more open mats here, but like not a lot of people ever showed up for them. I felt like
this is true. I think.
Really. What do you define? Elaborate. I'm unfamiliar with said expectation.
I mean, I can't recall us having something called an open mat. We've had Randori, and Randori on Friday evenings when it was gi was at best like 6 or 7 people. That's why I was rolling in Randori on my first week as a no stripe white belt, because there were only like 5 people, and Jim was like, "Come on." So
do you think do you think like people would benefit from more open mats? I mean, like, okay, so like as a stakeholder in the gym here, like what benefit is it to the students to really have an open mat? Like how many people would show up?
I mean, it varies like anything else here. Like some days you have, 4 white belts come for a new class, and some days it's 20. And it just kind of depends. Like you can never gauge how many people are going to show up for anything, I feel like.
Well, I think based on a conversation we had recently, like I think open mats, for what I see, I don't see the need for it here, honestly.
Yeah, because
everyone goes so fucking hard. That's my big thing. Everyone goes too hard, too often, and I think more situational sparring you can go hard in situational sparring, but in very like focused positions, so you can get reps with resistance, so you can actually get better at that. And to what we were saying earlier with Mike, which is drill, so reactions in those specific situations become instinctual as opposed to, let me think about it first.
What is so like you guys are both blue belts now. What is your ideal amount of effort for you to learn in a situational sparring situation? Like, that's using the thing twice. In a situational sparring round, do you want the person to resist 100%, or do you want them to start off at 50, work their way up to 60 in like a 2-minute situation?
Progressive resistance.
Yeah, it depends entirely on how much of a grasp I have on whatever we're teaching. Like if it's something that's fairly new and I'm not great at yet, then I'd probably say maybe just give me like 50% on this, and then as you get better, they can ramp it up until you're going 100% and trying to hit it. I think you do need to definitely ramp up, though. I don't think you should ever drill just like lazy, just like...
I think we all agree that we could probably do a better job of prepping students to be better drilling partners when it comes to the drilling phase and the situational sparring phase of training, so they don't dead fish us.
Yes, which is
because what happened to me and took me some time to have this realization is I would drill a technique, I would have success, I would go live, and I would have zero success, and I'd be like, what's going on? And that's because when you drill it, everything's clean and your partner's flowing with you. And then when you actually do a technique live, it's never clean. That's what took me time to realize, is that doing a technique is never clean. And a great example is a crab ride back take. If you do a crab ride back take in training, it's like, oh, this is the most elegant thing ever. It's like, boop, boop, grab the belt, got your 2 hooks in, kick them out, they fall in their butt, you've got your seatbelt. You do that live and watch a tournament. It's like a fucking battle. Guys are climbing. You're pulling the belt. Guys are struggling, and it doesn't look pretty. It works, but it doesn't look pretty. And I think that as a very beginner, as like up until like being a 3 or 4 stripe white belt, I was trying to achieve. I thought jiu-jitsu looked like what it looked like in training, and now I'm realizing jiu-jitsu doesn't look like that. It's can I aim for the objective of what I get in training, but achieve it when it looks ugly with a fully resisting opponent. And that's where I think progressive resistance would give people a better gauge on, you want something when you drill it to match what it's going to feel like live, and that's where progressive resistance, in my opinion, can close the gap for you.
There's also a thing I don't think most of the teachers most of the time pay enough attention to, and it's teaching the other side of the technique, especially with newer people. When you're teaching a technique to say, and there's a guy that does it, now I feel bad, I can't remember his name, but the SBG guy.
Matt Thornton.
Yes, Matt Thornton, thank you. Who, when he teaches a technique, he'll say, and a good partner will do this while you're trying
Look
to
at you
this.
Watching the videos. He's
like, you're following my share.
I told you I used to fall down those deep YouTube rabbit holes, man. I gotta stay away. But
and once you say Matt Thornton, Chris is like,
so like the SBG is like my
I think Chris just got taller. It's weird. He just like
he's cool, man. Like
yeah, but that's one thing I saw from his videos that I don't see a lot here that I think is very helpful, because especially when I go with newer people and we're teaching a technique, you're trying to learn it, but they're not doing the right thing on their side, so it's throwing off your drilling.
So there's two sides of that coin, right? Because there's like the side of the coin where it says like it becomes like a kata, right? Like you don't want it to be like a 1 or 2 step sparring from like a traditional martial art where it's like, if I do this, then you do this. But then along the same lines, good jiu-jitsu would dictate that if I do this, then you definitely do this, because it's from a percentage standpoint. Like that's what you would most likely do because it's safe, right? So like,
but it's not necessarily a move. It's more of like, this is the position they should be in. This is where their hands and legs should be if they were going to start defending. Like just giving them rather.
So that's the other thing.
Rather than just laying there, they have an objective of.
So
some
here's
kind,
the other funny thing as a white belt, and I mean it still happens now, is we'll learn something, and our partners will, quote, do the right thing, and you train for that, and then you go live and someone does a completely unorthodox, unexpected thing, and it works. And then I have to go back and ask Paul, I was like, well, what if they do this? And he's like, oh, well, then you just take their back. But it's not obvious to me.
Because you're a white belt.
Yeah, because I don't have the experience where it's like they do the unorthodox. So it's like we say, like I'd say going with a 4-stripe white belt or going with a blue, just simple. Going with a blue belt in a way is easier than going with an athletic white belt.
Yeah, agreed.
Because the white belt's going to do
dangerous.
Yeah, the white belt's going to do movements that aren't jiu-jitsu that you spend less time reacting to.
But at the same time, I think most and you guys are at the stage now where you're in your development of jiu-jitsu, where you're starting to see certain like common denominators, right? Like where like you just mentioned Paul saying like, well, I would just do this. Like there should come some sort of like singularity in your training and your development of jiu-jitsu where like, for example, the reason why I knew that the modified hip bump sweep that you had posted a video of, you're like, I want to work on this. I'm like, I just know that's going to work. Right? Like, because like I literally have the cross arm trapped. I've got my elbow to my hip. He's got no base that way. And just going back to what you're talking about when you visited Maine, about the guy of like all sweeps work because of this, right? Like I just knew because he didn't even see it coming and he postured, like I just knew it was going to work, right? So like there should come a point in time where everybody's development where for the most part, like you can see common denominators in certain positions and certain positions for certain transitions where you're like, okay, well, I would just do this. It doesn't matter what they're trying to. If I'm trying to do this and they do this, well, then I would just do this instead, right? Like, I think that happened to me today when I was rolling with Andrew Rossiter, and he said, I find myself caught in these like awkward, weird positions, right? And he's like, I just don't know what to do with it. Well, I explained to him, like, man, like, there's gonna come a time where you, like, I see what you're doing. You're trying to prevent a guard pass, so you tie up my legs with some fucking bullshit like triangle, or you're squeezing your thighs together, whatever it is. But all you're doing is like you're locking me in place to prevent that pass, but you're not doing anything with your arms, right? Like, so just from that weird, awkward position that you think is awkward, see where you want to go, see what options are available to you based upon like where my hand placement is, and work towards that. And then I think when you start seeing those common denominators of like hand placement, hip placement, like their body relative to yours, and leg placement, like then at that point you should always be doing the right thing. You know, if you sort of like know, I guess that's like a circular argument, right? Like you should know what to do in order to do that, but you have to understand the concepts first. Like it's just sort of like if I'm being an uke for Paul, and he's showing some new technique, like you'll hear him say every so often, "Oh, Chris is doing this because he knows jiu-jitsu, right?" Like I just do that because it's at that like for that micro.
You've developed an intuition, a jiu-jitsu intuition
of like what I need to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Like and it's not even a matter of like what it is to help him demonstrate the technique. It's what I should be doing as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. And that's the whole chess match overall, is trying to beat the other person's potential reaction. But I think you guys shortchange yourself in terms of not knowing the quote correct reactions. And I think you guys shortchange yourself as you know, mid-level blue belts at this point to roll with somebody who's like a spazzy white belt. I think you're so focused on whatever technique we're working at that moment that you sort of ignore your other possibilities, right? Like you said, Paul said, like, oh, I would just take his back. Like, it's the idea of, like, I was just reading Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do, and he's talking about, like, who's more dangerous, the guy with a knife or the guy who doesn't have a knife? And I'm like, I sort of disagree with it, but I see the analogy he's using. He says, like, the guy who's without the knife, right? Because he's like, that guy recognized that he has all these weapons and tools available to him, whereas I almost guarantee you the guy with a knife can only think of what I can do with that knife. Which I agree with, kinda, but like knives are fucking dangerous, right? Like I don't want to fight.
But what if we?
Yeah, I think that's a theory that probably falls apart in practice.
I mean, we saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, right?
No, right.
It's like I have
what
gun,
if that
you
guy
have
was
knife.
sick that day and has a gun? Then you're screwed.
And I get that, right? But the analogy he's trying to make is like the guy who's so focused on only doing one thing is less dangerous than the guy who can view other possibilities available to him. And I think that's where, it would do a service to like mid-level blue belts to like, yeah, that's fine to see the technique and stuff, but like, how do you based upon that spazzy white belt's reaction, like what can I do from there?
That's kind of where I was going when I was saying I'm trying to branch my game out from the places I continuously find myself, like knee shield. Like rather than just going for the same thing every time. Knee shield bottom. Knee shield bottom. Right. So what I'm trying to develop now is that whole like heads I kill you, tails you die thing. Like trying to learn and use the techniques. So if they go that way, then I know I'm going this. But if they go the other way, then I know what to do from there too. And trying to use that. So because guys I go with against like Mike and of course some of the brown belts and black belts, it just seems like no matter what I do, I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And I would like to be able to develop that. So that's what I'm trying to do from the places I find myself. Is like if they go left, I know what to do. If they go right, I know what to do. And once I have that knowledge, then I can actually develop a game from there.
That's very Nick Paul. Paul talks about like reaction and then timing the window. I also think going back to the training and progressive resistance, the other thing we could do, I think it's a more dangerous slippery slope because of how people react when kind of given this responsibility, but allow training partners to be like mini coaches and actually give verbal feedback about what you are doing. So it's like if I'm training with you, Chris, and I'm practicing what we did today, a knee cut with a back step, we're supposed to keep pressure on the hips. It's like you would tell me like, oh, the pressure feels better now when you do this.
I don't think the bottom person realizes that. Right, like I think.
No, I'm saying empowering the bottom person to say, like, be like mini feedback machines. So you're like, this feels better, this feels worse, so that the guy on top or whoever, whatever, I'm using that situation, but the person practicing the technique can actually not just. They can actually get actual feedback saying, does this feel worse for you? That's better for me.
I agree with you. I think it takes a very trained person to recognize that sort of stuff. And I think this is sort of like one of those things where one of the better ways to learn something is to feel it first, right? Like it just in terms of like how many times have you worked with like a white belt now where you're trying to show them something, or excuse me, you're trying to teach them how to do something and there's like they're just fucking up. They're just doing it terribly, right? We're like, just let me do it to you real quick, right? And then you're like, just so you know what to feel. And then intuitively, I think when they start to try to do it now and reverse the position, they can do it properly because
they can actually reverse engineer based on the feeling.
Yeah, like based on how often does that happen? I would say a lot more often than you realize.
I try really hard not to teach people anything because I know nothing.
That's a great attitude to have. More people, more intermediate people should have that attitude.
What's that?
Like I shouldn't be teaching. Like when people ask me questions, hopefully I usually say, Paul's sitting right over there, or Chris is sitting right there. Like ask them, don't ask me.
Occasionally, I'll give a white belt a tip if they have no idea what to do from a particular position, and I don't want to, stop everything to like, get Paul to come over and like show them a thing. But like, if they're stuck in mount and they have no idea, then I might show them like a trap and roller, just to have something to work toward from that position.
That's being a good training.
But most of the time, right? I try really hard not to teach jiu-jitsu.
So that's interesting that you. But what's wrong with that though? Like I don't see a problem with,
because even my best stuff I only know about 70%, and I don't want to pass on bad habits and bad information to new people.
But like if you expand the knowledge base and the pool of just like people to try to critically think, I don't think that's a problem.
I mean, maybe it's just like from my perspective, like for me, one of the most annoying things when I was a white belt was like blue and white belts trying to teach me things.
Unsolicited advice.
Yeah, unsolicited, right? And not, there's a certain person that'll do it. They're like, where you're about to submit them, and they try to start teaching you. Like
talking you through the submission.
Yeah, there's that. But then there's other people that just like they just want to feel like subject matter expert, and I just didn't want to ever be that guy. And then that extrapolates into, I just don't know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of other people here you can learn from that know more than I do.
But I think though, one thing that I've been a part of at this point is like, as a lower belt teaching. It's been a part of my journey. Teaching also helps a person get better at it, right? Like, mind you,
that's 100% true, but I don't think I've reached the point of my learning where I need that as part of my learning.
Will you feel comfortable doing that?
Say again?
Let's say 4-stripe blue belt. Where do you feel comfortable doing?
I mean, it depends how I feel at a 4-stripe blue. If I feel like I know some things, then yeah, I'd probably teach a scissor sweep or something. That's fine. But like just where I'm at now, and there's no part of my game where I feel comfortable enough.
Ooh, okay. So I'm gonna do this now. Next class I teach where there's not solid curriculum, I'm gonna put everybody on the spot. Tristan, I call you out. What are you teaching? What's your best thing that you want to teach?
I'm going to teach avoidance.
Those are the worst classes because
why not?
Yeah, you just got a bunch of people awkwardly standing around and talking very soft, and they don't really know what to do. And
it's entertaining for
me.
Yeah, but it's a disjointed class for the people that want to learn. That's why you got to.
You need to have a certain level of confidence in yourself to be able to go forth and teach somebody in a way that they're going to listen to. Like I can go through the motions of a scissor sweep, but people looking at me aren't going to believe that I know enough to be teaching anything.
Well, that I think you're being a little self-conscious there. I think it's fair to be like, I don't want to be the guy that I dislike, which is the unsolicited advice guy. I get that, but the fact that you're aware of it means that I think you're less likely to fall into that trap. And the way you're going to present the information is probably going to be less from a position of authority and be like, this is what I know. Take it for what it's worth, or however you want to frame it.
That's pretty much how. If I end up like showing someone, that's my disclaimer.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
If anyone teaches you different, listen to them because I have no idea.
Oh, okay. So unsolicited advice aside, jiu-jitsu pet peeve. What's your first one? Name one.
It's the teachers. That's a big one. The low rank teachers that gets me a lot.
Aside from that,
aside from that,
what do you hate?
Spazzy white belts. I think that's pretty universal. Like guys that just try to make up for not knowing any technique with I just control them. That's my whole thing.
Do you smash them or do you control them?
I'll just control them unless they're really being a dick. I try not to just outright smash people for no reason. Noah. But
2 versus 1 on what?
Of just control the guy.
What did I say?
You're like, I want to grind my elbow into his eye socket.
Oh,
and I'm like, no, I just wet blanket him and just tire him out.
I mean, the honest truth is, with a spazzy white belt, if you're in a dominant position, they usually gas themselves out, like
that's true.
Trying to like fight out of things, you know. That's the one. That was one of the.
Unless they're a wrestler.
Yeah, but one of the things I learned pretty early on was the guys who were really experienced were very patient. And even still, I feel like I'm not patient enough when I grapple. Like, I try to advance positions too quickly instead of just chilling.
Chilling to wait for them to make a mistake, or chilling just for the right opportunity?
Both. Making them more uncomfortable, slowly advancing. Like I could slowly improve my position even more. You know what I mean? Take it easy, Victor. Mr. Lubricated.
A lubricated balloon. That's what we call it.
I'm going to call you that from now. Hey, Mr. Lubricated.
You're going to have to take that name into the cage with you now.
Embrace it.
Can you hit the AC and shit?
Yeah, I got you. See you, Leo. So
I totally booted that dog in the head earlier today. Too. I was flipping over the wall and I was stomping down. I went right on top of it. I felt terrible.
He's back.
Coming to avenge animal
cruelty. I know. Look at these socks.
First off, is that just general dog sock, or is
no? That's Leo. That's actually Leo.
Come on.
Wow.
It gets stretched over your ankle. I can't tell whether it's actually.
I've never seen you wear high ankle socks though. This is so weird.
He's a good guy.
This is the only fashion that you can pull off.
Socks with Leo's face on it.
So Tristan, I noticed today. Speaking of fashion, unmatching top and bottom. Explain.
Yeah, that's just how I roll, man.
Oh, I like where this is going. Why do you do that?
I'm not like you guys in your uniform color pajamas.
Are you kidding? I
haven't matched in 12 years.
That was the thing. Like, even when he got his black belt, I was like, nope, he's not matching.
Nope, still not going to.
Actually, you know what it is? It comes from the fact that I prefer the Datsusara pants, but I like the 93 brand light jackets.
Hey, they're not sponsoring.
So it's all mix and match.
Let's calm it down there. Just don't name them.
How many
not that you can't be. Just, Tristan, just
wait
hit
a
me
minute.
up.
How many gis do you own?
5.
Oh, that's quite the...
5 full sets and 1 extra set of pants.
Why do you like the Datsusara pants?
I just like the hemp. It's just more comfortable. They're just floppy. They're just more comfortable, really. And then I like the lighter brand top because it's Florida.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you guys legitimately feel a difference between wearing like a heavier top versus a light top?
Dude, I'll bring in that hemp gi top and you can wear that thing.
Actually, I do. I will certainly sweat
like
more, but vest. I actually prefer... Now I actually prefer heavier gis but I won't wear them most of the time just because I'm lazy and I like the way they feel before I train. But a lighter gi gets totally soaked, whereas a heavier gi does not. Plus, the grips are better for a heavier gi. Whereas
the grips are worse for the partner.
Correct. Yeah. Better for me, more advantageous for me in the sense that my partners have harder times gripping.
That's the hemp gi tops. People just can hold those forever.
Like a t-shirt, right?
It's like I don't know if it like massages their hand or something, but they just never have to let go. It's really annoying.
So one more random thing here. So over the break, I was thinking about things, and I was watching Keenan and all the lapel guard stuff, and I started thinking about lasso and spider, and I was like, I think no-gi is a purer form, a more elegant form of jiu-jitsu. Because I was like, at what point are we going to... At no point can we stop utilizing the characteristics of the gi. Like, I can't tell Keenan, hey, you can't grab the lapel like this and do this stuff. But it's so... It gets to the point where it's so arbitrary, where I feel like now it's less elegant. Like, no doubt, like, using lapel guard is super efficient, you know? But it's like, you're I don't know. I'm not saying within the rule set you're doing everything totally legal, but I think it's less elegant. And I think when I think of elegance, I go back to like wrestling's the oldest Olympic sport, and submission grappling is, I think, a better version of wrestling because you can have submissions. You're not going belly down, which is stupid in a fight. So I did no-gi last night, and I was like, I'm a pure jiu-jitsu practitioner. Imagine that.
I think that's mostly true. I mean, anytime you have a rule set, there's going to be sort of a deep game part of that you only learn because it's that rule set and you can get away with it. But I also think there's a difference working out here in Florida than if you're training somewhere where people are always wearing big jackets and pants and stuff. Then I think it becomes more useful.
Do you think you're actually going to be in Toronto taking some guy's lapel from a jacket?
I mean, that's the thing, though, right? Like,
I mean, but sleeve grips, pant grips, that stuff will all work.
That's all universal, right? Like, I think there's.
You can't really grab a T-shirt if you're here in Florida, but if someone's got a thick coat on, a belt on, long pants, I think.
In John Wick, they do a lot of judo throws, and it looks cool.
Sure, and they're wearing suits, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though, right? Like, can you? And I think that's what we sort of not forget, but like overlook is just the underlying. And this is me just doing my middle of the road thing, but like,
damn you, Chris!
Don't take a side.
Take a stance.
Guy.
I mean, piss off half the people in the gym.
I mean, everybody gets a medal.
Everybody knows that like I enjoy just gi, right? Because like I can slow people down and that sort of thing. But at the same time, it's like there is a certain amount of like universal jiu-jitsu that you should train for, right? Like you should look for the principles. Like, why did that? And not to go back to that today, but like, why did that modified hip bump sweep work?
Man, you were just
I'm
determined to shame me on this podcast.
Like, hey, you're welcome, because I was the one that sent him the video.
Yeah, he's like, I want to work on this. I'm like, well, let me try it. But like, it works because I controlled a sleeve, I broke down one leg of the table, and I swept in that direction.
Yeah, but the point of that sweep that I got was, it's an easier sell than doing a traditional hip bump sweep where you have to come up all the way. Like the time it takes to enter with a traditional hip bump sweep is more than what the Galval version, which is what we're talking about. That was my thing. It was like, if you can hit this, it's a quicker entry time.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, because the cross sleeve is there, right? And plus, like, it's not predicated on you hopping up. But also, Danaher mentions a different setup for that too, to address, because he talks about like how, like, why is it that we learn like the hip bump sweep this way?
Yeah.
You know, like in every intro class, you learn to like, oh, do this, and they plant their hands, blah blah, and you do like you make this frame, and like it literally never happens live. Like, but it's what we are taught from like.
Well, I agree with that, and that's where Preet, I think, is good at challenging, like what we do in class. Like he talks about, you know, we actually teach bad habits to the person on bottom a lot. It's like when you're in half guard, it's like, oh, we're gonna do the tripod pass, and where does our opponent start? Flat on his back, and we have the underhook. It's like in reality, the guy on bottom should never be on his back. And should never be giving up the underhook. Like it's like you've already achieved such a good position there. Same with side control. It's like we're almost conditioned through the reps we do to assume a terrible position in side control on bottom, flat on the back. It's like that's the goal of the top guys, to pin us. But we pin ourselves because we're like, oh, When we start our side control drills, we do that. So I do agree with that subconsciously or without knowing, we are enforcing terrible habits for the bottom guy based on start positions of drills. And we never tell the person, guys, in reality, you never want to have your shoulders on the mat, just to let you know. We never say that.
I think, though, so, like, I don't know if you remember during our little staff meeting, but, like, I had mentioned the idea of, like, I always feel as though a curriculum should be taught in this way, right? Like, you learn an attack for week 1, and then in week 2, you should be learning defense, or concurrently, right? Because that teaches, just to speak in Tristan's part, like, the idea that the uke is never doing the right thing, right? Like, and shouldn't that just be a part of the curriculum regardless? Like, maybe the first part of the class we're learning purely, like, let's say, just say for the sake of argument, like armbar from guard. And then, so that should be technique 1. Technique 2 should be, okay, well, let's learn defense from the armbar, right? Like, so that forces both people to be working properly, and it gives both people a good look at it, right? And it's not much different than what we're doing
then
now.
Week 3. Well, now that the person's countering, this is the first counter to that.
You're right. Like,
but do you
and then you spend a year
cut your
doing
limited
arm bars.
class time in half to teach both sides of the technique?
Too much,
and get
in my opinion, too much
less
content.
drilling in on the first technique. Like, it's so easy to, especially when you're new, to just forget what you learned because you move on so fast. Like,
so what's the solution then? How do you?
I don't think there
teach
necessarily
the
is.
person?
I think everybody starts at white belt and they're going to start doing the wrong thing. I don't think you can teach everyone to be perfect out of the gate. You teach a tripod pass that way because white belts lay on their back, so that works at that level. And then as people get better, then you add in, and you know, people learn things intuitively.
So Preet would argue the problem is no one should be rolling for at least 3 to 6 months.
Oh, that's
and I
that's
hate
an
that
old
idea.
School. Yeah,
I think if you're coming in just doing technique, that's the quickest way to drive people away from
Not
jiu-jitsu.
in his opinion. Not that's the fault of the instructor not making the classes entertaining enough. And that doesn't mean you can't have resistance. Like, you make little games. So it's like if you have an armbar game, so you teach a guy an armbar right away. UFC, you just learned an armbar. You start GSP armbar. You know, Jeff Hardy, or not Jeff Hardy.
Dan Hardy.
Dan Hardy. You know,
Which actually did. He
armbarred, but he couldn't finish him.
Yeah,
you know, and he's like, okay, so why is that and all that? Like, people might get excited about that, and if you teach the person how to if you make the person resist, now suddenly you've got a little game, and you can even do points. You can say, okay, you win 5-3 because you did 10 rounds, or you're the first to 5.
Isn't that essentially just?
So you're competing.
You're gamifying situational stuff.
Absolutely, 100%.
I mean, that's all it is.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
but that's a good mobile game too. Like, a good mobile game is basically you doing a repeated, boring action, but adding achievements and bells and whistles so you're incentivized to do it. And if we can do it with mobile games, with tapping, why the hell can we not do it with jiu-jitsu?
ooh. So
Shots
meta.
fired.
So meta.
I'm basically just copying what Preet says.
Which, incidentally, is sort of like Hickson's thing, right? Like, isn't that what he added to the game, too? Is the idea of, like, the invisible jiu-jitsu of, like, finding every nuance of every position, of, like, starting in a bad position and working your way out of it, like reverse engineering based upon just, like, where you're stuck.
I mean, I think that's all true, but again, you know, everybody starts from zero, and you can't learn it all that fast. Like, if you isolate it and do little games like that, that might be good, but I think, at least me coming back, like, I don't know if I'd have stuck with it as long as if it was just, like, pure technique every day, or even maybe situational drilling. I mean, I don't know about the whole, like, gamified thing. I don't think I've ever been in a class where they've tried that, so that might be an approach to it. But I find even having the sparring, even not knowing that much, it kind of gives you that competition, that head-to-head thing that sort of keeps me engaged.
The primal, we must fight.
So is that...
I mean, I'm not an aggressive person. I'm not a person that wants to go out there and fight people, but I do find the competition of rolling in jiu-jitsu classes the draw. Like, I'll get through the technique because I want to learn it, but if I was doing just technique every class, it wouldn't be nearly as engaging as knowing that, you know, I'm going to have to try to use some of that technique at the end of the class.
But so I think, to argue Preet's point, you might actually frustrate more students if you just let them roll because they get put in too many situations that they don't know how to deal with, and they don't know why they're losing. So they don't know how to react. If they're intelligent enough to be like, I don't know this position what I do, which I've encountered plenty of times, and I know we've lost students that have, like, I know for a fact we've lost students that I'd roll with them and they're like, I don't know what to do, and they just get frustrated.
I think both sides are true. I think people come in and they don't know anything, so they don't feel like they get anything out of sparring. I think people come in that want to spar because that's kind of what.
And they're comfortable with being lost and they just want to scrap. Chris is here.
But I also kind of
Chris, have another beer, man. You need to open up.
I mean, isn't that kind of part of the deep water of jiu-jitsu though? They say, jiu-jitsu, it should be hard, right? Like hard training is part of the thing. It's why not everyone does it. It kind of what sort of differentiates jiu-jitsu from a lot of other martial arts is you spar. Everyone spars, and it sucks when you're new, and you're gonna get crushed, right? And that's a little bit of your crucible, right? Like it's not meant for everyone to be like easy and breeze through and be super happy all the time. You're gonna have your suffer moments, your pressure points.
Is that exclusive to jiu-jitsu though? I don't think it is, right? Like
no, absolutely not.
It's like it's more evident when you're just getting tapped out and stuff, like, and it's much more ego.
But does it make jiu-jitsu better? Okay, now do we call it a sport? Do we call it a martial art? Do we call it a self-defense system?
I mean, it's all the above, right? It depends how you train.
But I mean, does it actually make it better that there's like a toughness component to it?
I mean, do you guys think that everyone should do jiu-jitsu? Do you think they should try to make it appeal to everyone?
100%.
100%. Yes.
See, I'm kind of the other way. I feel like if you try to broaden it out and get everyone involved in jiu-jitsu, you just dilute it.
I think
it becomes taekwondo. Ooh. And next thing you know, everyone's trying to do, arm bars against dummies or breaking plastic boards.
Oh, shots fired.
Wow. Sorry, did I just crush Chris's dreams over there?
I mean, am I
going to catch a wheel kick to the face next time we drill?
No, and that's the thing, right? Like, wow. Like,
you did not expect this to happen.
Okay, so is it a failure though? Like, I've had discussions about this with my buddy who coaches baseball, right? Like, and he's like this sort of like old school baseball coach where you sort of have to like weed people out based upon these like just, in my opinion, sort of like inane drills. Like, and how much of can't you broaden the population? Isn't it a failure of the coaches and not improving training methods? Because aren't you losing talent right now? Because like there is an attrition like what is it, survivor bias? People just happen to stick around based upon whatever current ecosystem it is. We're losing potentially excellent jiu-jitsu practitioners just because we're failing to improve.
And I disagree with that. I think
really
I do. I think there is a certain mentality you don't need to have right out of the gate, but you need to be able to develop that not everyone will. And I think that needs to be there somewhere for you to ever be good at jiu-jitsu.
But maybe the time for certain people to develop that is longer than others.
And I don't think coddling people the first 6 months.
Ooh! Fuck you entitled millennial bitches.
Wow, coddling.
I'm not saying you need to be crushing people to death their first 3 classes or anything.
Ooh, but mind you, this is coming from the guy who started 15 years ago, whatever the case is.
Yeah, so, but I quit because I was broke, not because they were hurting me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so like you've experienced it, right? Like you have a good idea of what it is, and you entered it with that certain mentality. Like,
but it's also a thing. Like my first ever competition thing ever was wrestling in high school, and I wasn't good at it. I'll say that up front. I was not a great wrestler, but you still develop that sort of that crushing pressure, that being used to somebody like aggressively trying to manipulate you.
So
in some way or another.
I'm gonna.
So I don't know what it's like if you start jiu-jitsu in your 30s and you've never never gone head to head with someone like that before. I don't know.
That was me. I never had contact sport, and I started in my 30s. But I would say. So I'm going to take the conversation to a place that none of us are qualified to discuss. But I think this comes in
this whole podcast.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think this plays a role in females in jiu-jitsu. Like, I don't think it's fair on anybody, male or female, to say you need to be able to deal with the suck within a certain time period in order to continue, whether we call it coddling or not. And I definitely think
does the suck stop at some point? Is that
it gets better? But my point is that whole coddling, or for lack of a term, like the coddling part, it's like
But is that just? I mean, like, so. God, we're
Are we expecting women to be bros like from the get go and handle that?
But does it require to be a bro to be good at jiu-jitsu? It doesn't, right? Like, so like,
all the women right now are wincing, so I understand that.
No,
like,
and I get that, right? Like, and I'm
everyone's like, fuck.
I honestly don't think it's as much the physicality that keeps
We're-
women out of jiu-jitsu as it is the sort of culture.
Like culture?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, so like let's look at it. Do you feel as though and
the mansplaining.
none of us are
We're
qualified
mansplaining.
to
We're all
speak
mansplaining.
But like just from the standpoint of like I'll use the Gracie Academy as an example, right? Like they have Eve Gracie teaching. I think she's like a purple belt or something at this point. She's teaching.
She was also a professional wrestler.
But like it's a women-centered class. It's called like Women Empowered. So it's like marketed considerably different. Like is jiu-jitsu in our sort of like perception of it so pure that it should apply to all genders, blah, 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 or should it be taught in a different way to women because of just you just described it, the culture of it that somebody sort of needs to adopt.
So
right?
and maybe this is a survivor bias, but the women that I've asked that specific question to here have all said they do not want a women's only class. Every one of them.
Is that because
if you're a woman that wants to be able to use jiu-jitsu, like you're learning it because you might need it someday for whatever reason, like I don't think it does anybody any good to have like lower intensity classes or
wow, lower intensity.
Everyone, all right, wow. Tristan just got
to say this in
lower intensity. Way. You're saying women go lower intensity?
Or it's just
no. Have you seen how fucking hard women go with each other? They beat the fuck out of each other. That was not intended. That's what I heard.
Well, that's what he said. You don't need to. No.
I'm gonna be over here while I get whatever that was out of the
system. Stacy is like sharpening. She's like,
I don't know what you call it when you said having an all women's jiu-jitsu. Like, what is the differentiator there?
It's taught
then?
by a woman. It's taught, you know.
I don't think it matters who's teaching it or how many people are in the class or any of that stuff.
No, and I agree with you. Right?
I said when you said teach it differently, I assume that's what you meant. Like going easier. Like
I think so. Like should jiu-jitsu, because to me jiu-jitsu should just be taught as jiu-jitsu. Like technique versus technique. These are scenarios you encounter. Blah blah blah. Right.
Agreed. But part of that is you go with everybody that's in class.
I agree with you.
You don't have problems with.
By the way. So, but like it's just from the standpoint of I'm trying to empathize with a woman and just the culture of it, right? Like because a lot of people, even men, are uncomfortable with the, for lack of a better term, intimacy of
100%.
Learning jiu-jitsu, right? Like you are super close to somebody, and we're not like a kiss each other on both cheeks type of culture. Like that still freaks me out, right? Like I don't know what to do with that when some Cuban tries to do that to me.
I mean, I would also say that so I lived in Spain. It's like just because you say hi to someone with besos or besitos on the cheek. Is that what those
things are?
Yeah, besitos. That doesn't mean that you're suddenly comfortable with someone sweating and their sternum in your face. You know what I mean?
I mean, but it's a step closer than shaking somebody's hand.
It's a step closer, but the two are still, I think, pretty mutually exclusive.
Like I feel as though jiu-jitsu should be taught as like just the purity of jiu-jitsu should just speak for itself, right? But the fact of the matter is humans have certain perceptions about certain things and culture has certain perceptions about things where it needs to be taught a different way.
Well, I think what I think's going on here, what I feel is, what's the argument against keeping novices in their own safe space until they're ready to defend themselves against everybody in open roles?
Agreed. But that's also predicated on the idea that the instructor is going to use that sort of progressive resistance. I mean, like, what is the progressive resistance of starting out as a woman's only class? What do you find, like, the most effeminate male you can, and like bring them in and like, all right?
No, I think we've eliminated. I think we've tabled the women's only class. We've established
well, from your guys' perspective, is this the thing where women just don't want to get into this thing and roll with men right away, or is it like an intensity and strength thing out of the gate?
I don't know, and that's where just from in my opinion, and most women, and by most women I mean my wife, like she just doesn't want to roll with guys. Like that's her thing.
So I will say this. Like I said, the females I've talked to have universally told me no to the women's only class. The ones that train here.
There are also blue belts who've been at it.
And that would be a class of approximately 3 to 4 people.
But they're the ones also training. So is there a population of women like your wife that as a barrier to entry, they wouldn't go because they don't.
I think
so maybe there are.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think.
And actually, to be fair, I do recall Tiffany telling me like maybe as a way to introduce people.
Yes.
You have a women's only class, but that was the only thing when it came to just training. It was train with everybody.
I think it's a matter of like comfort, right? Like so.
Again, we're talking about something.
Guys,
yeah, right? we at this point we need to bring in the women. So Stacy, Michelle, Amanda, Alexia, we're all gonna have you on, and you can educate us.
Which Michelle's training again, by the way. She checked out some gym.
Well, I was talking about Lexi, like Danny and Michelle. That Michelle.
Oh yeah, okay.
But yeah, Michelle Sanchez up in Connecticut is training again. She is trying to toe hold upper belts, so this is good. I'm happy that she's doing that. But I think we're the situation that I've seen that I think is preventable is the students that come in, feel lost, and quit. And they feel lost for a variety of reasons. But I do think throwing them into the deep end, sure, they're people that, whether it's their comfort with close proximity, whether it's previous grappling background, like, oh, I wrestled a little bit. Like, they don't give a fuck. They'll just go in and do their thing. And they get triangled a bunch of times. Like, oh, cool, you triangled me. What is that, you know? But I do think there are people that are intrigued, that do have the athletic ability, that would be comfortable with the physicality of it if they knew why they were losing. Meaning they had enough, they were gradually onboarded and they reached a point where they kind of understood the basics. And then if they, quote, lose, they get smashed by someone better, they at least are aware why they, quote, lost.
Is that an ego thing? Like, people come in and they get smashed right away, and like some people can handle that and some people can't. Some people see it as like, okay, I don't know anything, of course I'm gonna get smashed, and they move on. But I think another person will be like, you know, that they take that very
how people
personally.
react. Like, I mean, Chris has told me, like, when I've gotten my beatings for various reasons, like, he thought my reaction was different from most people's because I didn't take anything personally when I got, you know, I didn't get the shit kicked out of me, but I got roughed up a little bit on various occasions. Listen to the archives for the story on those. They involved Ryan Wilkerson. Anyway, but I do think, and this is a pre thing, so I'll cite him again. People get frustrated when they lose and they don't know why, and they get addicted when they lose and they know why, because then they want to come back and correct what they did wrong.
So that's an ego thing too, right? Like, what's the coolest question that somebody can ask you after you've rolled? Why didn't this work? Or, you know, like, did you feel this? Or like, or whatever, like, cause like, my submission defense is fairly okay. Like, that's probably
what a Chris Booth thing. Fairly okay.
It's fairly okay. Like, that's probably like, you know, and it's just, like, it comes back to like just my relaxed nature when I'm grappling and that sort of thing. And, you know, a lot of times people will think they have something locked on, they'll sit there and grind or whatever it is, and I'll just sit there and just stare at them and whatever the case is, right? And one of the better things I feel as a training partner, as a student, as a whatever, is when somebody asks like, hey, did that work? Why didn't it work? Right? Like, and I'm able to tell them like, oh, you had it across my jaw, which is more likely than not the case. Or like, you just didn't have this grip tight enough, or whatever the case is. Or like, your weight was placed incorrectly here, and, you know, that sort of thing. So like, doesn't that sort of boil down to, quote, Matt Thornton, actually? The people who are successful in the long run, or who get quicker or get better quicker, are always the ones who have like the innate curiosity of why things work a certain way, right? Versus like just doing the how and the what, but also the why. Like, the why, I think, is what really differentiates somebody from training long run versus some. I mean, and really, really becoming like just that solid jiu-jitsu artist versus just somebody who's good at doing 5 things.
But it's also not only about technique. I mean, coming in, if you've never grappled before, you never wrestled before, there's I think a huge, I don't know if you call it a learning curve, but there's a
learning cliff.
A learning cliff of just being controlled by another person and trying to control another person. It's like any other sport you start. You don't have those muscles yet. You don't know what you're doing. You're not coordinated. So you're going to have a lot of that on top of not knowing anything. Like, so I sort of had a little bit of the grappling when I started, just, you know, from ancient memories of high school or whatever, or my original training. But my whole first, you know, few months was after every class talking to Paul was like, well, I got stuck here. How come I didn't, you know, because I could still move people, but I didn't know anything. But if you come in and you don't know how to move people, you've never had that style of athletic ambition, and you don't have the technique, then I think it's kind of, it doesn't really matter that you don't know anything, because you also don't have the muscle memory. You don't have those muscles to use.
But you're also not willing to ask the question, right? Like, a lot of people would just storm off the mat and just have their ego
Well, some
defeated,
people
right?
are and some people aren't. I've seen people come in that have no athleticism that come in and they stay for a month and they leave. And I've seen people come in that were wrestlers and they come in and they ask a ton of questions and they're still gone after a month.
So I
don't think it's just that
that's
one thing.
That's very, very fair.
Would you say that when you have a new student, you should bring them in, put them in, have a higher belt mount them, and have them stay there for 2 minutes, and be like, if you're okay with this feeling, you can stay. You'll be okay at jiu-jitsu. Is that like at a very, I know it's like an oversimplified kind of scenario, but
because you got to give them fucking hope. You got to have a chance to go against another white belt and be on top for a minute and
intro, right?
feel that there's something there.
And this is just me speaking from doing multiple, like you just said, like you literally just hit the nail on the head. You said you give them a sense of hope, right? Like, and I think there was something to when I was a purple belt doing intros at Winter Springs. Like, one of the coolest things that just automatically flips people's heads into like selling them on jiu-jitsu is, I mount you. You can't get me off. You mount me. I do these simple little things and I can escape. That's easily one of the biggest selling points to any untrained person. And I think that it's important to have that a personal connection with somebody, training with like a higher belt, like you said, who can sort of like calibrate where somebody is, also with like a good first impression of jiu-jitsu, right? Like, I wouldn't stick like a brand new person with somebody who's just an absolute killer on the mat. Like, you know, I'm not naming names, but like there are just certain people who I would stick them with, certain people I wouldn't stick them with. And I think that's a big part of being an instructor that's learned over time too, is learning how to read the room, read your audience, right? Like, and learning how to truly sell jiu-jitsu, like, because that's the ultimate goal of being a black belt for me at this point, is bettering the sport, right? Like, so giving that sense of hope is a huge thing, and a big part of that is predicated on putting them with the right person.
I kind of think jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu, and you do it and you're either into it or you're not. I think if you're trying to slowly bring into it, you might keep them an extra 6-8 months, but at some point they're going to run into jiu-jitsu.
That's interesting.
And you can either grind through it or you can't. It's a hard thing. It is a hard sport to do. And, you know, you can slow walk them to that if you think they're going to
Tristan with the clickiness. He's like, it's tough. You're either tough or you're not.
You highlight
No. It's not a tough
elitism.
Because I'm not the top guy in this gym. I never will be. So I'm getting crushed as hard as anybody. But you gotta, you know, I'm gonna accept that there are gonna be days like that. You know, I'm gonna go with Ryan. I'm gonna get my wrist broken or hurt. I'm gonna go with Xander. I'm gonna get crushed and not be able to breathe. But that's part of the game. I'm gonna have rounds where I'm on top and someone's having a bad day under me. That's just the sport. And if you slow walk people to it, then they'll get there in 6 or 8 months instead of, you know, the first week. But we do get, you know, we don't make anybody go roll with anybody on their first day. If you want to sit out your first month and just watch, nobody's going to shame you for that. It's not like a thing where like, you need to get out there and start killing people or you suck and we're going to make fun of you. There's none of that culture in jiu-jitsu. Everybody's cool. You do as much as you can do and nobody's judging you for it. And I think that's the part that you need, but you can't change what jiu-jitsu is, which is difficult, grindy, exhausting.
Maybe I'm too idealistic. Like,
I think I've said this multiple times. I think jiu-jitsu is a young sport. I think jiu-jitsu is even younger when it comes to people figuring out how the best way to teach it. I think the wrestling room is probably more like you could talk to. I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but I would guess that if you went to if you got 10 top wrestling coaches and you gave them a new student, they'd probably do kind of the same stuff with them. I would guess. Maybe I'm wrong. So I'm predicating on that hypothesis.
You mean the same stuff as like
they would teach them the same material. Like the way they would teach that person material wise would be kind of the same.
Oh, whereas a jiu-jitsu coach
When
might
jiu-jitsu
start
is all
from
over the
anywhere.
place,
And,
yeah. So,
No, yeah. Okay.
and I think if you went to 10 different jiu-jitsu schools, they're going to start you all over the place. And I think we haven't figured out as a community, as coaches, what the best way to teach jiu-jitsu is.
But I also think it's a result of being sort of a wider breadth of technique in jiu-jitsu.
Agreed. That's what I was.
I do.
Wrestling is very powerful, but it's very focused. It does a few things really, really well.
I need to put you on your back. Right? Like,
Exactly. Single leg, double leg, pin, and then there's some sort of periphery techniques and some details.
For like
but
boxing too, and nothing against.
I mean,
boxing,
you can
but
have
it's,
all kinds of different jiu-jitsu
it's four
games.
punches, right? Like just done in different combinations at different timing, right? Like so, you're always gonna learn a jab first, just like you're always gonna learn a double leg or a drop step first, right? In wrestling, with jiu-jitsu, like man, there's so much because.
So much and so much that works.
The bottom person. Yeah,
a
exactly.
lot of martial arts have, deep catalogs, but you'd only ever use a handful of techniques. I think jiu-jitsu, depending on your athleticism, your body type, your weight, people have crazy different styles and they all work.
Yeah, and they all work because they can make it work for them, but there have to be some certain fundamentals amongst all those. And I think to Noah's point, maybe we're still trying to figure out what is the first stuff that you need to learn in terms of those fundamentals, like things like it's easy to say like shrimping, right? We can all agree shrimping is very important because it's a fundamental move in jiu-jitsu. A drop step.
I honestly, I think shrimping comes in too early. Like I don't think
too early.
Yeah,
it's.
I don't think
jiu-jitsu is.
Everyone says that.
That's like jiu-jitsu baby steps.
Here's the thing. No, here's the thing. The shrimping window on the mat. I challenge you to show people that actually do that. When they roll.
But I think it's that movement. It's developing that
hip
muscle
escaping,
and moving that way.
100%. Shrimping, the way we show shrimping, I never see anyone do a shrimp like that.
I shrimp all the time.
Where?
I shrimp anytime. I shrimp literally all the time. Okay. Like I frame and I pull my knee to my that's shrimping.
That's not the shrimping window on the mat, I would argue.
See, for me, when you're
shrimp,
you're talking about when we're like drilling, like doing warm-ups and stuff?
Yes, I would say the shrimping.
For me, that's more about just developing those muscles, being able to turn like that. Like, if you don't have that, that's a new thing that you have to develop.
The 2 points of contact, my feet, like, if you watch me shrimp, that's literally what I'm doing.
Okay, I believe you, but I also think what you're doing is mirroring what you're doing in practice. I think when you show someone the shrimp, that's not the actual shrimp that they do live.
Okay, that's 100% fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I do it because it works for me, and I figured out over time that I need to modify your basic turn on your side, reach for your toes, push on your feet, to inverting my knee and that sort of thing. I agreed 100%. So maybe is that a failure that we need to, as coaches, need to eliminate, right? Like these, but to Tristan's point,
do you need to do that because
I think you have a valid point
about people will
develop
it at different speeds and stuff, but if you're talking about learning jiu-jitsu, getting to a black belt, you're going to be in it for 10 to 12 years and you're going to get this nuance one way or another.
But
right?
We should go further, faster, shouldn't we?
I mean, you could, but I think the only way to really do that is to train more and train.
So are you an advocate of just
people.
just roll and you'll get better over time?
No, not just roll. You need to have techniques. You need to have people you can discuss things with and drill things with. There's a huge mental component to it, but a lot of what you learn you're going to develop from training with people at different skill levels. And that's where
what's your
most of your
breakdown
practical jiu-jitsu is.
What's your breakdown?
What's your
like if you could say, what's your out of 100%, what percentage of your roles, in your opinion, ideally, do you want to be with higher skilled, equal skill, and lower skill?
I would say fairly evenly distributed. The higher the belt, like higher than me,
so it's just
probably the less I'll train with that person, just because at some point they're not going to get anything going with me because I'm going to do everything wrong and it's going to be easy. And I'm not going to get anything because I'm just going to get crushed.
We're for simplification, we're classifying people in three groups. They're the ones better than you, the ones that are the same level as you, and the ones that are lower level than you.
So most of my roles will be against other blue belts or purple belts if I can choose for myself. Equal level or slightly better.
Okay, so that would be what, 50%, 60%?
50, 60%.
Okay.
And next down will be lower belts, so white belts, and then the smallest will be brown and black belts.
So what's your ideal, though?
Ideal.
What's your ideal ratio of that?
So, I don't know, 50, 60% blue and purple, probably 20% white, and everything else brown, black.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a...
I think it's very useful to just get worked by a black belt every once in a while, just to because you have to see what it's like at that level.
Like, you have to feel it, Chris.
You got. I mean,
in order to do it, you have to feel it.
If you're just going with white belts, you're gonna feel like you know stuff, and it's a different thing when you suddenly slide over and you go with Ryan or you go with Chris, and it's just like, Ryan's.
Chris, please don't lump me in there.
Chris isn't putting the hurt on anybody.
No, Chris is
going to stymie, but he's not going to put the hurt on.
But it's a whole other style. It's me. I can go as hard as I want. He's still going to be asleep.
Yeah,
that's still a different thing.
Okay. You know me pretty
Chris
well.
is like, that's what I want to do.
It's still a different thing. Like,
Chris is so happy with that description.
I mean, like, that's pretty
I want everyone to be the big bad wolf, huff and puff, and I'm just sitting there deadpan.
Yeah, just go ahead and get yourself tired.
So Tristan, as we kind of wind things down here, 2 questions. What are your goals for 2020? That's the first question.
Futuristic.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. Right now, my only focus is to just be able to get out of Turtle, because it's where I just get stuck all the time. I mean, other than that, I'm still, I still feel like I don't know anything. I'm still trying to gather techniques.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like I'm just at the bottom rung, just trying to absorb knowledge. So like at some point, I'd like to know enough to actually develop a jiu-jitsu game. But right now, I'm focused on like not falling into the same traps that I do most of the time, and just sort of branching out from where I do end up.
Okay.
And just gathering. I feel like I'm still gathering technique.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
With more YouTube,
trying to
Instagram.
Trying to reinforce what I'm learning in here with YouTube. So nice. I'll go and look for variations on things we learned in class on YouTube, but I try not to just fall down the rabbit hole.
So
who's that? Who did I like? That
oh, you're doing. You're an R account. Okay, never mind. Okay, I thought you were following that person.
No, man, I ain't reading.
Okay.
Jesus, I got a wife.
So the final question is this: what is one of your fondest jiu-jitsu moments?
Fondest jiu-jitsu moments. I don't know. The whole thing in the Caribbean was pretty cool.
It's not even in our gym. He's
my God. Good day, sir.
But I could only do that because I'd spent the time here. Like I was in it because of this gym. I mean, I really like training here. I sort of like the whole thing. The training partners are fantastic. The coaches here are fantastic.
Oh, there you go.
I think I have a consistently good training experience all around.
But what's your fondest memory?
What's your fondest memory?
Or a fond memory?
Blue belt?
Fond memory.
Like with promotions?
Every time I get Noah's back, I get pretty excited about that.
When was that? I don't recall ever that happening. I mean, I was when I was thinking about that question to ask you, I was trying to think myself. And I know there's some moments. Honestly, what I can tell you, it was an impactful moment is when I was early on when I had my first sweep as a white belt, and the bell went off. I was like, physics, leverage.
Do you remember what it was?
I don't really. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember it might have been a pendulum sweep.
That's true. The first time you hit a technique in live rolling that you never got before that's the highlight of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Make sure to scream it out when you do that, though.
Yeah, you get up, one hand in the air, run around the gym. Yelling? No, you don't do any of that.
You have to scream out technique of the day. Like
I had a guy do that to me.
The unspoken rule.
When I was like, and I will say the end of the story.
Yeah, don't be Chris Wu where you sweep an unsuspecting blue belt and then take a parade lap around the mat.
So I think this was my first or second week, and a guy got me in a cross choke and he submitted me, and I feel like it was the first time he submitted anyone. He's also a white belt, and he literally.
Is he still here?
No, he's not. Oh. He literally put his fists up in the air and was like, "Yes!" And I looked at him and I was like, "Really? Okay." Then he disappeared for a while, and then he came back, and I was almost a blue belt, and I beat the fuck out of him.
Ooh, so unspoken rule. Do you guys talk about with other people? I mean, not on the podcast. Who you tap out and who you don't?
Oh, 100%.
I usually don't, unless I get like a new submission or something. Say again?
No, I don't keep a record.
No,
I keep mental notes. I keep a mental note.
I don't have a jiu-jitsu journal.
I keep a mental note. I keep a mental note. Like, for example, if I go with a guy like Ryan Wilkerson, it's whether or not, and again, this goes back to what I said before. It's like you're assuming whenever they tap you, they're going 100%, and you're not. And then when you tap them, they're obviously going 100. Like, you always overvalue you and undervalue what that person's doing and assume that they're working their hardest where they could be practicing stuff. Like, I go with Mike Zahibi. He's going into deep half. I know Mike Zahibi doesn't go into deep half normally. You know what I mean? But it's like if I get a pass, I still, like, for a split second, like, I passed his guard. It's like, that's because he's practicing a guard he's never practiced before, and he's never on his back by choice. Like he's never on his back involuntarily. It's always by choice.
Because you're a mindful training partner, and that the fact that you recognize that somebody like Mike Sahibi typically doesn't go onto his back.
Yeah, but my point is just this, and JB's even said he does this. It's like when you were starting out, it was like you could gauge your progress by how much higher belts would tap you out. It's like if you went with a higher belt and they tapped you out 3 times, then you went with them a month later and they tapped you out twice, that was a sign of improvement. Whether or not that person was actually doing the exact same stuff. Because it's very likely that person was also, I'm going to practice like Imanari rolls, you know what I mean? And they do different stuff. But, you know, for the guys that are consistent rollers like Ryan Wilkerson, you know, Ryan does try different stuff, but he's a good, I love rolling with him because he's a great grappler and he gives a consistent look for the most part. I would say his variety he's more focused in terms of what he does than other people, you know? So I definitely think people do that, and I don't think it's wrong I don't think it's bad. It's one way of measuring progress. It's like, at least from a defensive point of view, am I protecting my neck? Am I protecting my joints? That sort of thing.
I was much more concerned about not getting tapped out than tapping out other people for most of it. Now it's more broad. It's just there are people I feel like I should be competitive against, and it should be back and forth, and there are people I feel like I should be able to dominate most of the time, and there are people I feel like I should just be defending most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And just that's sort of how I gauge my progress. Is I feel like we should have this kind of match, and that's where I should be. And then there are people that I feel like I should be doing better than, worse than, and then if I see myself start to slip down, like against Mike,
so
that's the one guy
so
I felt real competitive against, that he's just sort of started to surpass me.
So now I have to, which Mike?
Big tall Mike.
Sahibi?
What other Mike is there?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. Good question. I don't know.
Like what Mike, exactly.
But like, so like Xander, like right now I feel like I'm slightly better than him, but he's right on my heels.
Like, ooh,
Xander! If I slip a little bit, you know, that weight is gonna start hurting me if he learns the technique.
Yeah.
Or when he learns the technique, I should say.
Yeah.
He listens to the podcast, right?
Who?
Xander does.
Oh, he does?
He does.
Oh, Xander. Shout out to Xander.
Oh, you got called out. Oh, we got a cage.
Kumite time.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk into class 5 minutes before it's over when he's tired, and then that's when I dominate.
Chris, do you have a fond moment?
That's an interesting question.
And then we'll wrap things up.
I mean, it's really hard to overshadow at this point, like getting my black belt a couple weeks ago. Like, that's not the pinnacle, but like it
man tears were shedded.
It meant a lot. Like, it was just, you know, like it whether or not it actually.
When he started talking about you, you started blinking back the tears.
Dude, like you could see, like it's funny because Eric Giannanini got like video of me behind, and he could see me, like I'm literally like starting to put my head down in my lap and that sort of thing, because I realized like what he was doing. So that meant quite a bit, but also like getting my purple belt meant a lot too. Because I literally just walked into class one day and Jose was like, he just stopped class and was like, "Hey man, like get up here real quick."
Oh yeah, you got that with what, Jose Figueroa?
Yeah, and that meant a whole lot too. Those two things were really cool, just because like I'm really a guy who enjoys the process and stuff, and for just getting, I guess, some sort of external validation for it is nice, even though I say I don't seek it, but I guess and subconsciously I sort of do. It's nice to know that I'm improving, if anything. Noah?
Like I said, I think the sweep, the sweep was fun. I mean, I've had like funny moments on the mats, but in terms of fond moments, I will say this. I will say it hit me when I did the gauntlet for my blue belt.
I was just going to say that when I survived the gauntlet for my blue belt. Now that I think about it, that's the one.
That kind of, it actually, and here's the funny thing. It didn't hit me after the gauntlet, but what happened was Victor grabbed me to roll the final like 5 minutes, but Paul hadn't rolled with me, so Paul came rushing over and like bumped him off.
Yeah.
So I never got to roll with Victor, and Victor was already a blue belt at this point because Victor had gotten his blue belt at the previous promotion. So then right after that gauntlet, he grabbed me and said, "Come on, man, I owe you a roll." And after I rolled with him, he gave me a hug and like, "Congratulations." And that's when it hit me. And I had to kind of go off to the side and kind of gather.
Paul?
No, from Victor.
Oh, I got you.
And then I had to kind of go off to the side and kind of gather myself a little bit. And that's when for whatever reason, I mean, a year is not that long of a time. I certainly was kind of geared in on when to get the blue belt and studying the material and stuff. But it was just something with someone that you train with so much. Like in my case, I train a lot with Victor, and I don't know, it was just weird. It just kind of hit me, and I was just kind of like there, and it was cool. But that was like an emotional moment. In terms of a cool moment, I don't know, sometimes you get a flashy move, you're like, hey, that's fun. Anytime I tap Victor, that's always memorable. If he taps me, that's a sad day. But I think like Tristan said, it's like we're in a knowledge onboarding kind of thing, so there's just a lot of fun in learning new techniques and plenty of opportunities to hit those new techniques and get that not validation, but that positive reinforcement when you actually do it and it works. So I think that's pretty cool too. We're out of booze, and I think we're out of. Chris is still like pondering.
I'm super hungry.
Chris going into deep
super
thought
hungry
mode over here.
I'm thinking.
Come on, man! You can't break your fast. Jeez.
What are you talking about?
You're doing your window.
Almost at 24 hours.
Oh my god! All right, well we'll get some food.
I need like a Popeye's chicken sandwich.
We'll start talking about food yet. Some of us have several hours yet.
Guilty pleasure food. Come on, man. What is it, Tristan?
What's that?
Guilty pleasure food, man.
All food, man. Are you kidding me? Look at me. All food is.
I mean, if I feel like I've trained hard and I'm calorie deficient, I'll go to Five Guys.
Ugh.
What?
Overrated.
That's your go-to burger? Is Five Guys?
What? Oh my god.
So overrated.
All right. Well, I'll take the shame for that
I
one.
think you're fucking clouded by peanuts on the floor. Which actually you're not supposed to do. I realized that after several times.
No, that's that steakhouse where they do that. You get to crunch through that whole restaurant because they refuse to sweep the floor like it's cool.
Oh man. Well, Tristan, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah. All right.